Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, and so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show. Booyah!
Hey, here we are.
What's going on?
Here we are.
Again.
We made it, guys.
Yes, we did.
TGIF. We made it to the
Thank
best
God.
day ever invented.
Thank God.
It's
every
Friday,
day.
everybody's favorite day of the week.
I mean, how could it? Well, yeah. I mean, that moment.
Saturday's close.
Especially when you were a kid and you went to school. Like
At
when
3
you
o'clock
walked
Friday.
out of school on Friday, it was like, yes.
You owned the world.
It's the greatest moment every week.
Yeah, unless you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well,
Unless-
maybe laugh at something.
What's that?
You ever been in a government building at 5 o'clock or 4:30 if you have to
Everybody's
count?
gone
empty.
already.
Oh, no. Oh, it's the Stampede.
Everybody's
Yeah.
rushing
that's,
to the door.
That's everybody's
Right.
Friday. That's
Is your
everybody-
mayor's office like that?
Yeah, well, yeah, my folks, they will. Quitting time is mean quitting. They leave
That's
it.
it.
Nah,
They don't let
the
the
rest
door
of us,
in.
some of us stay around.
Yeah. Welcome
But they're
to the
all good.
Cleveland
They work
Sports
hard
Show
during
for
the day.
Friday.
Yeah.
Busy show. We're going to start with the Cavs, get there in a second. Unbelievable game. Unbelievable finish, really. It was just great. We're not talking about the NCAA tournament, but there were a couple of great games in the NCAA
was.
tournament. We might try to sneak that in somewhere
Kansas
if we
State
can.
point guard breaking a record.
Yes, unbelievable. What a game that was. I was riveted to that
Yeah.
game. Every dribble. It was awesome. Jim Rosenhaus is going to be here. We're going to talk Guardians. There's a new Major League Baseball ranking of the top 100 out. ESPN did a poor job with this, I think. We're going to tell you where Jose Ramirez fits in. Did they get that right at least? We'll talk about that. And also, we're going to grade Andrew Berry's offseason this year.
Okay.
How has he done this year? And if you're Andrew and you still need to make one move, what is that move? We'll get into all of that first. Bulls bet.
Yes, indeed. So we all know 2 nights ago, I lost on the buzzer beating 3 that didn't matter.
Meaningless 3 bad
And
beat.
last night, I can't complain about last night. It was a close game, but it could have gone either way. I had Michigan State, obviously.
Yeah.
And they were up in overtime at one point by 3 points in the middle, and then they just couldn't make a basket at the end. But what are you going to do?
What
That's
was the
part of
spread
it.
on that?
The Michigan State was favored by 1.5.
Okay, my fear was, I didn't know what the line was. My
Yeah.
fear was that meaningless steal and bucket late to make it a 5-point game would have been a bad beat.
Right,
but
no.
not so.
It could have, no, but it wasn't.
yeah.
I was already done. But
Boy, they
today,
really crapped the bed down the stretch.
Yes, they did. Today we're going wild. I got to shake it up a little bit after 2 heartbreaking losses. Roll it, Mikey. Well, first do the read. And then
Yeah,
roll
if
it.
you thought Bet Rivers just covered American sports, then you were in for a surprise today. Bulls going way off the board.
You're going
but
cricket.
You can find people
See.
anywhere on Bet Rivers Sportsbook because it is the place to be for every single game worldwide. Now is the perfect time to join Bet Rivers. When you use deposit code SPORTS, you receive a second chance bet up to $500. You can get in on all the action with weekly specials like basketball and hockey. To help you win big, check out BetRivers.com or download the Bet Rivers app today for the latest lines, odds, and boosts. Bull, what you got?
Yeah, first of all, today's podcast will be up shortly. I talked this morning on the bullpen about the Browns and Jets being 2 teams that I think could be the two playoff teams that were not playoff teams last year. And I talked a lot about the Elijah Moore trade. The best bet today, we're going over somewhere that Brad played. European basketball.
You going Real Madrid versus
Real Madrid is-
Bologna?
Yeah. Real Madrid is the number 2 team in EuroLeague. Out of 16 teams, I believe there are. They have the second best record. They are the best road team in the entire EuroLeague. Meanwhile,
Don't take the bet. They ain't gonna do nothing. They'll never do nothing. They always show well, and then at the end,
they choke in the playoffs.
first one out the gate, last one in. If it was a horse race.
Well, Virtus Bologna, I mean, they stink.
No,
Bologna. I know, I'm kidding.
Bologna.
Right.
The American twist on
Trying
it.
to be a little funny, but it didn't work. Virtus Bologna.
Who's their stud?
No idea. No clue.
Thought you
But
didn't make it up.
I felt like I had to shake it up and pick a different sport. Maybe tennis tomorrow. You never know. Apparently, tennis is big on Bet Rivers. So anyway,
Europeans love to bet tennis.
they do.
They
so
love
there
it.
you go.
Do they?
So, by the way, Daniel Campagno for Bologna.
Yeah.
If he does it tonight, and it's a long shot that he will, but if he does it tonight, it's his 4th straight triple-double, which is incredible.
Oh.
Are you making that up?
Totally off the top of my head.
Sounded legit.
Danielle
did.
Camponio, I had to go, you had to put a vowel at the end.
Yeah, that sounded like a legit name right there.
I said, did he call him Jason Capono?
Hey, McNuggets, your mic sounds a little tinny. Is that just my IFB?
Does my mic sound off?
Nah, I'm good.
Sounds fine, man.
Okay, yeah, it could be my IFB is a little tricky today.
You down with IFB?
Yeah, you know me.
You down with PCC?
Of course.
PCC, the
Who
greatest
wouldn't be?
airfoil company ever created. Ever.
Yeah, like
Look at the PCC, or look at the airfoil ratings.
I listen.
Show me one that PCC isn't at the top of the list.
PCC is the Shohei Ohtani of airfoils.
They do it all.
That's it. One-stop shop for everything.
All right,
all your airfoil needs.
That kid.
Wow, what a finish.
That kid is
What a
good.
finish last night. So the Cavs at one point were down by 9 points.
Yeah.
Then they were up by double digits in the 4th
There you go,
quarter.
right here.
And then they're down by 2. Donovan Mitchell misses the second free throw, gets the rebound, misses the bunny, and look at Okoro in the corner. Are you kidding?
Send off.
That is big.
You know why he went crazy? You think it's because they won the game. He went crazy because he couldn't believe he made the shot.
No. That's actually false.
No, we're not going to let you discredit him like
Actually,
that.
that's very false.
He's not going to discredit him
If
like
you
that.
listen to the post games, they talked to Isaac about it.
Yeah.
He said, it's crazy. I was just watching. I saw Donovan miss it. Karras found me in the corner, and he said, I knew it was good as soon as it left my hand.
It is.
He was wide open.
Yeah.
As soon as it left my hand, he said, I knew it was
You
good.
know what else is true? Juju Smith-Schuster says he's excited to play with Mac Jones. I'm sure that's true, too.
All right, so let's get to the meat and potatoes.
Yeah, let's break this down.
The meat and potatoes here. So this young man has been, I will say, much maligned here in this town.
Deservedly so.
Well, when you're the number 5 pick, it comes with the territory, right? You only there's a motto when there's a motto in pro basketball. You're only good as your last game. Yeah. So if you use that as a player to motivate you every day, right? So, I was just happy for him, right? One, because when the ball came to him, his teammates had enough courage and faith in him to swing it his way. And when you look at the shot again, Mike, if you run it back, he wasn't hoping and praying. He let the thing go, and he fell back like, he knew it. If you hit a good golf swing, and you're like, or
you reach down and pick up the tee right away,
or the home run hitter batter, as soon as he cracks off his
flips the bat,
he knows what's that. Watch this setup here. As
First of all, the Nets just lost him.
Watch this. I'm fading off. I'm out of here. That's how you know. That's how you know when it's on, right? But for him, people want to know. Last night when we were on the radio show, they were like, "Is this his turning point?" I don't know if it's his turning point or not, right? But I know what. I feel much better today about myself than I felt yesterday.
Because he has a confidence that he can't do that.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, anytime you have a chance, if you ever hit a game winner, nothing like it.
It's like a walk-off home run.
It's like a walk-off, right? Yeah. And you there now. He has a chance to build upon that. And I think what has helped him is when they start playing Stevens again, because they start cutting into his minutes.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So you have to have some healthy competition here.
Right.
Because here, neither one of them are going to be a stud 3-man in this league. They're just not. Them together bring something there defensively that we don't have, their energy, their activity level. And where this takes Isaac Okoro, I don't know. Isaac Okoro is never going to be a prolific scorer in this league because he's not a guy that scores.
Right.
If you're a prolific scorer, you've been scoring since you were a kid.
Can he be that guy, though? Can he be the post-up 3 guy?
I don't know if you can be a post-up 3 guy if you're not you got to be able to stroke that thing.
No,
right?
I know.
Right? And he's working on it, but he's not the guy that I'm swinging it to all the time. Sure. But in the case where we are with the Cavaliers, he has to be that person because they're going to shade to Garland, they're going to shade to Mobley, they're going to shade to Mitchell. You're going to get these shots.
What'd you make of Mitchell missing the free throw and the bunny?
Now,
Bizarre.
Well, here's the thing.
Like, he's our closer.
Man, let me tell you something. I think of it different. I think of it for the simple fact that he got his own rebound again.
that was slick.
How are you getting these rebounds? Like this, that don't happen.
Brad, is he
past middle school?
Is he doing that? Is he missing to a spot on
No,
purpose?
I think that he missed it, and he, you can see it. He has a knack for it. He chases it down, and he's done it on numerous occasions here, right? Yeah. And the other thing that people he is strong.
He is bull.
He is strong.
He's bull.
Right? He throwing people off of him, right? Because he missed the putback. I was surprised he missed the putback. But for him going in there and keeping that thing alive, Brooklyn would have walked out of there.
It was a win. It felt like a win for the Nets. When he missed the free throw, I thought, uh-oh.
And
then when he missed the bunny.
But the Nets here, it's funny in this business, they panicked. You could see the panic down the street. They panicked.
How much of all the turnovers in the last couple of minutes, how much of that was Cavs putting pressure or the Nets just bursting like a bad pipe?
Well, I think that's the problem when you don't have somebody can handle like that. And it was the pressure, right? Because we're playing at a frenetic pace. We're in a frenzy.
We had to. We were down 10.
We sent you in a frenzy.
8 with under 2 minutes to
go.
And
they panicked. They start throwing the ball everywhere, not taking care of the basketball, and then all it takes is one slip up, and then everybody gets panicked, right?
Yeah.
You know,
that was a bad loss for the Nets, who now slipped to the 7.
Let me say something, guys, here. If you guys want to continue to be Charlie Brown and have the football pulled away, good for all of you. Have fun with that. Fool me once, okay. Fool me twice, it's a problem. Fool me 3 times, I think I'll finally smarten up. Isaac Okoro is what he is. Yeah. All right, he's a marginal NBA player. He shouldn't be a starter. He shouldn't be a starter on a good team. If you're going to do it, like, I know, listen, kudos to him for making the big shot. Nice job. It's a regular season game against a crappy team. The Nets are a crappy team.
I'm not going to call them a crappy team.
No, they're a crappy team.
They're a middle-of-the-road team.
No, their record's middle of the road because they had good players and now they traded them.
I know they are.
If this current roster played a full season of the Nets.
No, they're not a playoff team.
They're under 500.
But I also think that the one thing that I've learned from watching the Nets the last couple of games is they're scrappy enough to give good teams a fight.
Congratulations.
And I don't think crappy teams do that. Crappy teams are Detroit.
They're a below-average team. They're a below-average team. They're a below-average team. They'd be under 500
Brad, do
in
you
my
agree
opinion.
with that?
No.
You think if they played the whole season? No. They're barely over 500. They had Durant and Kyrie earlier in the year.
Well, but how much did those guys really play this year?
They played. I mean, they played enough.
So if you're watching this team, Jay, you're absolutely right. They're a scrappy team. Now, I'm not saying they're top of the league. They're not the worst team in the Eastern Conference. I'm not going.
No,
they're not that.
They're the worst team in the
Eastern
Conference.
They're in a playoff run here, right? And I tell you what, if you slip up twice, you're gonna take some L's.
But here's the thing, Brad. Isaac Okoro. There's no
now
we can
I think we all agree on Okoro. We're not being fooled by what happened last night.
Are we going to trust him? I know he made the shot. You trust him? I don't
want him on the floor. I got to trust him.
I don't think anybody said that.
Do you even want him on the floor in a big spot in the playoffs?
Well, it's not a matter of do we want him. We need him. He has to be on the floor. Well, who's going to put up?
Anybody.
Give me an alternative. Give me an alternative that's better than Okoro on this roster.
At least the other guys. At least Lamar Stevens can get rebounds. He can play defense.
To Brad's point,
Okoro's okay on defense.
You're mixing and
He
matching.
doesn't get any rebounds. He doesn't pass the ball. He doesn't do anything.
No, but he does
what
something
does he do? He's decent defensively.
Who are you going to pull him out for good?
Anybody.
Anybody? You're just going to replace him with anybody.
Play more Rubio. Play more Osmond. At least there's something there.
No, we're not.
You got to match
up. What is Okoro? Match up what? What is Okoro good at?
Bull is like most of the people in this town. Okoro gets hung because he was taking number 5. You wouldn't have a problem with Okoro if he was 18 or 9.
What is he
18
good
or
at?
19.
What is he good at?
Nah, just stay where I am.
Okay.
You would not have a problem with Okoro if he was taking the 18th or 19th. You would not.
I would still feel the same way about him.
See, at 5, when you talk about
there's an expectation.
There's an expectation here.
Can somebody answer my question about what he's good at?
You answer my question, who you're going to replace all of his minutes.
I said anybody.
Listen.
Any of the guys that play. I already gave you an answer.
So
you guys can't tell me one thing
let me flip it on.
Okay, Lopez.
No. Who going to replace him?
Put Lopez in there, right?
I just told you.
No, who going to replace him?
Lopez. Anybody.
Who going to replace him?
I said play Jetty more.
No.
At least he can. He's a better shooter than Okoro.
That's all he can do when he hot.
At least he's good at one thing.
No, he's not.
Okoro's not good at anything.
So I'll give you something. I'll give you something.
Rubio.
What about the day? What about the day? And I'm not against Jetty. What about the days that Jetty is really, really bad? So he's so bad that we got to bury him in the bench and he can't breathe.
Listen,
what you guys still have not answered my question. What is Jetty? What is he good at?
I'm going to tell you.
What is Okoro good at?
I'm going to
you
tell
got no
you.
answers.
I'm going to tell you.
Go.
Tell me.
What is he good at? Because these guys can't answer.
Isaac Okoro is athletic. He's a plus.
Everybody in the NBA is athletic.
You say you want something, I'm gonna go to it. He's a plus defender. He's a guy that can keep. He's a guy that can get to the basket. He's a guy that can finish at the rim. He's a dude that you don't have a problem switching on multiple guards. If you switch on a small forward, he can cover him, and he's gonna give you energy. He's an energy guy.
But so is Lamar Stevens.
We never said
Lamar Stevens. Well, he asked me who. I said Lamar Stevens.
Brad told you.
Brad. Talk for yourself.
Here's what I'm telling you. Brad told you.
This guy is just a guy.
You still talking.
Getting annoyed at all three of you.
Still
when he's
talking.
done, I have a question for you, Brad.
Here we go. All right. Brad told you that you're platooning two people. You are interchanging every game in the playoff system depending on the matchup. You're going to get Okoro, or some nights it's going to be Stevens.
This is a hybrid.
It's a hybrid move.
It's a hybrid.
It's like either or. They're going to compromise
right, so the
those
Cavs
minutes.
are playing 5-on-4 essentially.
Well,
No, they're not. They're playing 4.5 on 5. But Bull, in a real world, you would take him out. He's the weak link, okay?
Right.
You would take him out and you would replace him.
Right.
They've tried to do that. Clearly, they had conversations about moving him. Apparently, there were no takers, which doesn't surprise me. But here's the thing.
Right.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
I'll put it into terms that you can understand. Josh Naylor can't hit lefties, right? Mm-hmm. But you love him against righties, and you love what he brings to the lineup. There's intangibles that Taylor brings when he's in the game.
He's a much better baseball player than Okoro is a basketball player.
Agreed, but he has an Achilles.
He has flaws.
But Okoro has but Naylor has something he's good at. Okoro
I just told you 6 things he can do.
I just don't buy. Don't buy any of that. Really.
You don't buy he's athletic.
Or Okoro, who's the better player?
There's lots of people not. Larry Bird's not athletic.
Yes, he is.
Let me
he just doesn't look athletic.
So he believes
he couldn't jump on the stage.
You're saying Larry Bird's not athletic? Come on.
Larry Bird will kill you.
Larry Bird was a basketball player.
But let me tell you this.
Just because he's white doesn't mean he's not athletic.
This
couldn't
what
jump on his table.
This is what you. No, he could dunk. No,
Slightly.
Well, of course he could. He's 6'9". He'd only have to jump this high to dunk.
What percentage of current NBA players are not athletic?
Lots of them.
Really?
I'd give you 4 on our team.
Let me get back to Jay's question.
Come on.
Lopez.
There's varying levels of athleticism.
So let me get back to Jay's question. So really, you have a hybrid situation here. And I can speak to a hybrid situation because I was a hybrid situation.
Right.
Yes, I was. I was starting, and this when Scotty was coming up behind me. So Doug was interchanging us for a while here, and then it ended up flipping, and then because everybody has a skill set, right? Scotty ultimately developed into have an entire package. But if there was for a while, he had a skill set. It was here.
Yeah.
My skill set was here. The coach's job is now to manufacture the play of these two.
And that's not ideal, but sometimes
it's not ideal. You have to do it.
But you have to do it.
At the end of the game.
So I'm starting Okoro because Stevens is much better coming off the bench.
Right.
You have to keep him hungry, right?
Yeah.
You have to keep him hungry. And when he's hungry, if you have noticed in the last 3 weeks, the Cavaliers have gotten better because they inserted and started playing Stevens.
Yeah. Right.
That's when they got better.
Yeah, so the question here was
think
what
he
happened?
brings athleticism, energy, defense. He plays defense. He rebounds.
He puts the pressure on Okoro.
Right.
Because
But he's
Okoro
better.
wants to.
Don't you think he's better than Okoro?
No, I think the way he's being used is the best for the team.
Let me ask you
Can
this,
that work in the playoffs?
Yeah, it's
Let me
going to
ask
have
you
to
this.
work. That's what we
better
are.
work.
Brad,
Yeah.
don't you think at the end of games in the playoffs
Yeah.
that obviously you get the big four and that LeVert should be the 5th player in the playoffs?
No, that's not true.
Why?
Because
LeVert's a way better player
So
than
no,
Okoro.
so here,
You're going to be playing Rubio.
No, to your point, at the end of the game, that if you've
Or
been
Rubio.
watching, they've been trending with LeVert on the floor.
Right. Yeah.
Right. He has been in the game. Right.
He can
So,
score.
but I would tell you that why do you think I was crying for Carmelo? Right. Because there's a skill set that we're looking for. You've got 2 people that can score out front, Mitchell and Garland. Mobley, who's coming and going like light years ahead of where he was.
Right.
Right. And you really just need the 3-man to be a threat to score.
Right.
Like last night when LeVert found Okoro in the corner, right? Somebody I can kick it to here, because when we turn to these playoffs here, what's going to happen is I have a week to zero in on you.
Right.
I got to figure a way to slow you down. So what are they going to do, Bull? we're going to make Okoro. You're going to score.
Right.
You're going to have to score.
But do you trust him to score?
Well, we're going to find out what's happening here.
I just have no faith in him scoring.
And I understand why.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand because I was in the gym last night. They were talking about the same thing. And I said to somebody, you wouldn't have, the problem is he's the 5th person taken.
Yeah.
And the first
there's
thing
a tag that comes with that,
and the first
Brad.
thing that people go to is like, who did we miss out on? That's what's
Right.
going to follow him for.
It's you
for
remember
his
when
career.
Darko was sandwiched between
Oh,
the three
yes.
picks?
Joe-
I said from jump, I don't know Darko's skill set,
Yeah.
but he has 0% chance of ever being a star in the NBA
And he sucked.
because of the pressure that Larry put on him by making him the second
but that's
overall
not the
pick.
same
And
thing as
that-
No, it's not the same thing. But the reason Brad says the reason that everybody looks at Okoro the way they do, and I do,
Everybody
when you're
does.
The 5. It's the same thing we
That's
do
why.
with Jed in the Brown system.
Yeah.
When you're drafted that highly on the offensive line, now the expectation isn't just to be invisible, don't get called for holding, and don't get beat. Now the
You're supposed to be a
expectation,
game
and I'm not
changer.
going to say Joe Thomas, but the expectation is, I'm not supposed to even think about that position for a
Right.
decade.
Yep.
Well, Darko Milicic was maybe the dumbest draft pick in the history
I
of the
think
NBA.
it was the worst pick
Except
ever.
for taking
So that-
Sam Baba Booey ahead of Michael
that
Jordan.
hung over.
Well,
That hung over.
the history didn't.
So Jay, that
By the
hung
way,
over.
Sam Bowie was kind of good in
Darko-
college.
He was a good player.
Darko's pick hung
Very
over.
good. Darko was
Darko
like,
was a
what the
total
hell are
scrub.
they doing?
Darko's pick hung over Joe Dumars for the rest of his GM career in Detroit.
that was a disaster.
And so I was here. You talking about the 5th? I was the 9th, and they was hanging that amble over my head.
Yeah,
I
were
was
they
the
really?
9th. Oh yeah, it was hanging that amble over my head because you in the top 10.
They want more.
You in the lottery selection.
Man, it's
you better
And there's 300 D1 colleges.
and
Yeah,
not.
you better change life
You're like
for your team.
right. That's
And,
how.
and Okoro has not changed life.
and that's
Bull, I don't want to make it seem like I'm carrying the banner on the Okoro parade.
No.
But I
we
think
are
what
where we
I
are.
realized midway through the season, this guy is who he is.
That's what he is.
He's never
That's
going to
it.
be any better. But we're stuck now.
But all I'm saying, Jay, is that at the end of the game in the playoffs,
you
I don't
want him
want
on
him
the
on
bench.
the floor.
Okay.
You want to put Rubio? You want to put LeVert? I'm fine with either of those
I do
guys.
want to see more Rubio
I
in
don't
late
want to
game
see him
situations.
on the floor because I don't. Again, kudos to him for making that shot. But we've seen him have a couple of moments there, and it's just like, and then he reverts back. He's
I know
not
you
that
want
good
to
a player.
pivot off of it. One thing quickly, because the
No,
question
I'm
here
not trying
was,
to pivot. I got something to add to this real quick.
Okay.
We talked about him being the 5th pick in that draft.
yeah.
When
That
you look
draft
at
was
picks
terrible.
5 through 10,
Terrible.
which is all the guys who
Yeah,
at
it
least the
was.
Cavs would have been considering,
terrible.
no one has turned out to be a
No,
high
it wasn't a
quality.
great draft.
Who-
It was a
who's
bad
after-
draft.
who-
and
who's
a
There were guys drafted later that were good.
Yeah, later, but I mean,
Who's
at-
after that, Mike? Come on, give me the.
So 6 was Onyeka Okongwu in
Nobody.
Atlanta.
Never heard of him.
Who's solid, but he's a big
Decent.
guy.
Oh no! Wait a second. He's
Decent.
the big guy there.
Yeah.
He's having a decent year.
decent.
Yeah, he's solid.
Serviceable.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
7 was
Serviceable.
Killian Haynes, buried on the Pistons depth chart.
Yeah.
Although he been playing a lot lately with Cunningham out.
It's the
Well,
Pistons.
they're tanking, and
Yeah,
he's
it's-
playing.
Yeah, they
Pistons.
stink.
Okay.
Take that how you want.
Keep going.
8 was Obi Toppin.
Terrible.
Oh.
Yeah.
9, Denny Advia
Oh.
for
Who
Washington.
knows?
10, Jalen Smith, already been traded twice.
It's an awful draft.
Okay, keep going.
And then you get to 11, 12, which Devin Vassell on San Antonio,
Oh.
very good. And Tyrese Halliburton, 12, is
Those
very,
guys
very
become
good.
stars.
So
Well,
it would have been
stars are
nice.
strong.
It would have been nice. You can't go in the time machine and redo that
Right.
pick. He is what he is. At this point, Bolt, the reason I think that they're only going to win one playoff series, and I think that's going to be a struggle, is because they have an Achilles. And you said it earlier. When you get in a 7 game, that Achilles is going to look like a shining light the entire series.
Well, it depends on who's coaching you on the other
Thank you.
side.
Yeah, if they can
Thank you.
exploit
Now,
it.
so this is why I said I was on the air last night. I said, Mike Snyder was asking me a question. I said, let me tell you something. I'd much rather play the Knicks.
Oh, no, that's what we got to have.
No, than play the Heat.
Well,
I don't want the Heat.
And by the way, that's something we got to start worrying about.
Because the Heat are coming up
They're
fast.
only a game in the loss column back. of
I know.
Game and a
I
half.
don't know who's got the
Game
tiebreaker
and a half.
between
Game and
them.
a half in the back, and then so. Fortunately, the Knicks have the tiebreaker.
Oh, they do. Okay.
Right now over the Heat, but
Do
they
they
play
play
on
again?
Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go Knicks. Although they have
That's why last night we were like this. Damn, we probably want the Knicks to win.
but you
They
know
lost
what?
to Orlando. We probably need them to
Brad,
win.
Right.
Brad, Thibodeau's a good coach too. I understand. I agree with you. I don't want to play
Also,
the
you know,
Heat,
I played.
But
So
Thibodeau's a good
Tim
coach,
was my
too.
coach. In
Yeah, but I don't
Minnesota.
want
I know
Spoelstra.
Tibbs.
I don't
know.
want Spoelstra
But here,
at all.
I'll tell you what though. Between Spoelstra and Riley, give them a week.
Yeah, I know it.
They're gonna figure out the game.
That's
plan.
what they do.
Give them a week.
I'm
That's what they do.
100% in agreement. I'm just saying, obviously, I'd rather play the Knicks than the Heat. But Thibodeau's still a good coach.
Yeah. I like Tom.
Spoelstra, but he's a good coach.
I like Tom.
I'd much rather see Jacques Vaughn.
I play for Tom.
I think the Nets now are clinging to life, really.
Yeah,
the Nets
that's the team you'd like to play, but they're not going to.
They're not going to be. They're not going to be the Cavs' first-round opponent. Well, let's wrap it up this way because you kind of touched on it, but I want to drill down on this a little more. The reason that we're even talking about Okoro is because he has had a resurgence. Yeah. He has looked better, and your theory is he's looked better because
he's been pushed.
JB has put pressure on him to say, "Look, there's a guy breathing down your shoulder. Right. Go show us that we should have faith in you."
Right.
And to that point, if that's what he's done, I think that's a beautiful leverage for JB because it's worked, and I don't know that it's going to continue to work in the playoffs, but I do think that that's why we've seen the better Okoro. He's fighting for his minutes.
I'm smiling because it reminds me, it's a beast when you have to do like this.
Yes. You hear him coming.
Hey,
look, I like this. Scotty coming in? Is he coming in?
You love to walk in and see Scotty on the training table.
I told Scotty, I laughed at Scotty one time. We were playing Dominique Wilkins in Atlanta, right? In the Omni. I mean, this thing is packed, right? Anytime Jordan comes down, it's packed. Dominique, I'm starting. They said, you got Dominique in the 12-minute quarter, right? In 6 minutes of that quarter, Dominique has 14 points, 15 on me. 15.
Wow.
Yeah.
He
banked the three-point right off the top of the key. He and I still laugh about it to this day, right? So Doug is like, Scotty, go get Brad. So I get the hook. I'm coming out, right? Dominique goes back, and Scotty got it for the last 6. He gives Scotty 14 more in the quarter. I'm like, yeah, Scotty, you go get Brad. I'm like.
Sometimes he's just that guy. And Dominique was going to get his that.
But when you're on the end of it, you know what you are? You're a VOC, a victim of circumstance.
Yeah,
by the way, I feel like Dominique, like not by you, of course, but he kind of gets a little forgotten from that era because his team didn't really do anything.
He was a beast,
but he was so good.
And look at the players that were in that era. That were so good.
And they weren't on the national
But you're right,
stage.
there are other players, too, that played around that time. I know Karl Malone never won a title. There's a lot of really good players in that era.
It's brilliant that JB has now, he's found a way to ignite him. Mm-hmm. See, because if you don't care, you just succumb to it and be like, all right, I'll get these checks.
Show me your medal. Show me your medal.
I'll be very happy to have Okoro shut me up in the playoffs and make me look bad. I'll apologize.
They need both of them to play well.
You mean the way Miles has he's hitting over 300 in spring training.
And who you piss off on the Thunder Browns? Who you piss off on the Browns?
Oh, yeah. We'll talk about that in a sec. One last stat.
We talked about that yesterday.
One last stat.
Anthony Walker and he are buddies. Hashtag Jag.
I'm not.
I want to know what the
Miles Straw spring training numbers don't really matter.
You know what though? They don't. And
he's going to hit 300?
No, not at all. But I've been looking at the numbers. And
nope.
We'll talk about the Guardians later.
We'll
but
get to the Guardians. Don't worry.
They're really good. Even though they got a terrible record, their guys are hitting. Go ahead.
One last stat on Okoro before we move on to the Browns. Since the turn of the calendar in 2023, he has upped his corner three-point percentage from 28% to 43%.
Whoa.
28 to 43, 15%.
What do you attribute that to? That's not an anomaly.
No, he's in the gym. You heard Levert talk about it. He said he's the first person in the gym every day getting up shots. He's the last person to leave.
Really?
And he does that every day, right? I heard. And so if you're getting good tutelage here, you should get better, right? Now I'm not saying you get 20 points higher better.
15 percentage points added on to one particular shot is incredible.
Well, I mean,
he's shooting more.
Hey, well, listen, I heard.
Really?
I heard he got a futon in that short corner. He'd be sleeping there. He should. He got a uniform. He'd wake up and shoot in that.
That's why
corner.
you know what? That explains why he felt so confident when that ball came off his fingertips.
It's one thing when you launch it and you hoping it goes in, but he hit this thing and went off with the walk off. I was like, oh,
better make that shot. There's nobody playing defense.
The walk off.
So there was no one. But good job by Karras to find him.
Great play,
because that was a long court pass.
So that's the person you talk about because Karras LeVert is playing out of his mind.
We're going to do that Monday, Brad. We're going to do that today.
Yeah.
And then Okoro hit the shot.
knocked LeVert out of the
We're going to talk LeVert on Monday. Do not worry. It is time to talk Browns, though. And before we do, I want to remind you guys that BetJack is now open. It is the ultimate sportsbook. It is now live in the great state of Ohio. You can download the BetJack app today so you can have skin on every game, anywhere, anytime. BetJack, it is the official sportsbook of Ohio. Anthony, I'm not sure what you did there.
What's going on?
I hit the wrong button on the
like
monitor. I'm sorry.
Different advertisers before he got the BetJack.
It's okay. Subliminal advertising.
I'm gonna give you a read to put in there for me too. So.
Fred, please.
Let's talk a little Browns. We have asked you guys to grade AB through the first 2 weeks of the offseason. We all talked about
Andrew Berry,
how they filled most of the holes we wanted them to fill on this roster. And let's see how you guys do. We're going to start with Bull, go around the horn.
What's your grade card?
I gave him an A-. Now, I feel like every year I overgrade. I try not to.
Not you.
Listen.
No, you always.
Well, you know what? You get caught up in the news cycle, like everybody's going crazy over kind of a middle of the road signing.
You keep it realistic for everybody.
I do. I try to.
A-?
I feel like I overrate them, and maybe I'm doing that again today. And the reality is that a lot of the Browns' big free agent moves have been failures in past years.
Okay, that's true.
So we can look back by the middle of this season. I'm like, what an idiot I was for giving them an A-. But here's why I like what they've done this offseason. Their biggest problem was defensive tackle. I think Dalvin Tomlinson was a great addition. He may not be a superstar player, but he's very good. He's very good. I don't have to have a superstar in every spot. I got to have good players. I need good players. The Browns have a quality share of superstars. They needed more of a share of good players, and he's better than that. He's in between superstar and good player. He's really good player, and I think that's a great addition. I like some of the depth signings they had on the defensive line as well. I think there's some potential there.
Okoronkwo is a good signing.
Yes, but even, what's his name, Maurice Hurst.
Yeah.
Like, that guy was a good player. I know he's been hurt a lot, and maybe he'll be useless because he'll be hurt again. But I think there's a lot of potential there. I think that's listen, you're always, every team, in addition to a couple of free agent signings, big signings, is going to have a couple of Maurice Hursts that they sign, you hope you get something out of nothing. They're going to pay him almost no money. If he's an average player, and could stay healthy, that's going to be a big difference because they were getting way below average play at that position.
They were.
Now, in the end, even though I don't think Anthony Walker's great, they did bring him back. And they brought Taki back, who played well the second half of the year. They're still a little weak at linebacker. That would, that's the only area that I don't think they addressed enough. I love the Elijah Moore move. And as the days have gone by since that trade, and that's pushed me up to the A-. Because the fact that they only traded down 30 spots instead of trading away a pick, and now they have 6 draft picks between rounds 3 through 5, which could definitely give them the ammunition to get back in the second round. And if they do have a player they really want and they get back in the second round, well, then essentially you could look at it as almost getting Elijah Moore for nothing.
Well, whatever they'd package together to move up, they would lose that.
But those are lower picks and whatever. It's like
you put less faith in.
You don't want to have 8 rookies on your roster anyway.
No.
You know what I mean? So use that to move up again if they see a guy. And I think they could potentially do it. They've not been afraid to trade around with draft picks. So the more I think about it, I know Mike spoke to a couple people from New York. I've spoken to a couple of friends who have covered the Jets, and they're like, this guy can be really good. And I just think he's a very good fit.
Are you worried that he could be a malcontent because he was vocal last year?
Yes. Yeah, I am concerned with that.
I have a little bit of worry, too.
However, I think this team with Deshaun Watson, I'm just going with the assumption that Watson's going to get back to the guy he was. If he's not, okay, the whole thing's screwed anyway. Right. I'm going to go with the assumption that he is. And if that's the case, then the Browns are going to be throwing the ball a lot.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to be second on the team in targets. And if that's the case, he won't be upset. Yeah. He'll be happy, and they'll do well. The thing that could put it over the top, is that what we're doing now?
Yes, you want the one move that
could boost up to an A, to the full A for me.
Sir.
Yeah.
And that you'd think would be linebacker, but I don't really think it's a guy who I was not that excited about initially. And now some people are like, what do we need Renfro? We got 3 good receivers now. You can never have enough good pass catchers.
That's it.
And even though Elijah Moore, the one thing the Browns don't have, and you don't have to have it, and they can mix and match, Elijah Moore is not a true slot receiver. He's not. Right. And Amari Cooper played in the slot a little bit last year, and I think he could do that too. But Hunter Renfrow is a true slot receiver. And I think that, and if I could basically, let's say I've got 75 plays on offense, And if I could use those 4 guys with Hunter Renfrow for a total, I'm going to have on average 3 receivers out there, right? So that's 225 plays per game for total for receivers. Well, I'm splitting that up between those 4 guys with Njoku and Chubb, a little Jerome Ford in the mix. I'm feeling really good about that. That would put me up to an A.
All right.
Certainly if they signed Bobby Wagner, it would too, but I'm assuming because Tyvis was basically like, nah, he didn't want to come here. And there's no other linebacker that would move the needle for me.
He did say, though, if the money's right.
Yeah. Certainly Bobby Wagner will be an A+. I'm just assuming he's not going to come here.
Brad, you think that's high? You were looking at him kind of sideways.
Well, Bull's usually tempered in his praise for other folks.
I think Bull's usually very fair on
very fair on it, right? So that raised my thinking here. Like, okay.
Curious thoughts?
So if Bull's got him at an A-, maybe I need to go to an A+.
No, I'm going roll the tape, baby. He's a straight B.
Wow, really?
He is in Brad.
You've been critical and you've also been very
I try to be fair,
doubtful.
right? Listen here, I'm using years of experience here, right? I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid, right? Don't give me no Kool-Aid here. I'm straight BCAAs. Give me those, right? Power me up, right? That's what I'm doing. So I like the acquisitions that we did, right? I think Bull's point is exactly right. I don't need many superstars. I need the people in the grunt work, the solid players. Those are the ones that make the team.
Like the Bengals composition, Bull. The Bengals have their share of superstars, but what they have is a group of really good, capable players.
Those are the ones that
fit
make
well
the
together.
team.
And they don't have any weaknesses.
I actually think the Browns have more superstars than the Bengals do, but the Bengals have way more tier 2 and 3 players.
So when you have those middle,
we be throwing the word superstar around a lot.
I say when you have players at that level, the players that make on any sports team that make the team are the ones that bring the intangibles, the ones that sometimes their stuff get overlooked.
Right.
Because the headline guys are always going to get the headlines.
Sure.
It is the other guys that make the thing flow. And so I think Andrew's done a great job of assembling that, because I wasn't the guy running around and saying, we got to grab all the high-priced free agents, right? Give me a bunch of people that can fill some void. And then I felt like, okay, now I'm putting the onus on, just like Okoro, Stevens put the pressure on Okoro. Now I'm filling the gap. Now, Miles, you're going to have to play here, right? Chubb, you're going to do your thing, right? Watson, you have to play. So to me, like where they are, in order to get better, for me to move them up to what I said was a Mike flip it. I said we're going to a B+ or an A- to get me there.
Right.
I'm going this way.
Wow.
Ask me why I'm going this way.
So why?
I'm going this way because we've committed to Watson, right? You tell me Watson has an arm, his ability to make plays, make things happen. So I have to give him all the weapons. I can't give him a piece of a weapon, hoping that you're a weapon. I said I got Cooper, DPJ, Elijah Moore. I said I'm gonna go full wide receiver set on this thing here. I'm gonna try to open it up.
I get that, but have you ever seen a team? In life, couples get divorced and then they get remarried. Yeah. You're like, whoa. And they almost always get divorced again. Mm-hmm. My thing is, it's less than 2 calendar years from them divorcing.
But here, Jay, I say this. He only got divorced because he told him the truth.
Well, look.
I said, in the words of Steph Curry, I see no lies. Where was the lie at?
I don't think there was, but I think it was the method.
But hold on.
Was he disruptive to the clubhouse?
It was disruptive, but you've been in the locker room. There are many disruptive forces around here. He didn't tell him no lie. The question was, when he showed him that and told him that, what did they do about it? They tried to paint it like that didn't occur, and it did occur.
Right, but let me ask you this. Isn't there always going to be a fear from Stefanski and from Barry? If you don't bring him back and he goes on and does great things somewhere else, you're not really going to take a heap of criticism for that.
No, that's the easy way out.
If you bring him back and it explodes again, that's going to be in the first paragraph of your obituary.
There were reports, by the way, last night that he may be close to signing with the Jets.
Yeah, no, this might all be a move point. The Jets want him, by the way.
Yes.
And Aaron Rodgers wants him.
But I would tell you this. Scared man can't win nothing out here. Let me tell you something. So I'm going to take it back to my old crew. The Bulls were on the brink. Pistons were the arch rival nemesis. In order for them to get better, they saw a person they hated, and they sought him out. And that was Rodman.
That's different. They didn't have a history with
No,
him.
but they had a history with Rodman.
Not being in their locker room.
But from the standpoint, the people in Chicago hated him.
Was Rodman ever a disruptive force in the locker room?
Where?
OBJ's
Where?
never been a
Hold on.
stop.
Hold on. Where? What stop? You want me to talk about Pistons?
Everywhere. I mean, in Detroit, we know there was the suicide
Let me
watch.
tell you something. Suicide, yeah, it was
He
suicide
was going to kill
watch.
himself
Yes,
in
the parking lot. In the parking lot
of the arena.
Right. Everybody was in a scramble.
I just think I don't really care about the distraction stuff. I agree with G. The players love Odell. The other players love him.
Yeah.
I never heard a single complaint from another player. Odell tried to make himself off as he was completely innocent in the breakup here, which is not true.
That's
not true.
That's not true.
I think Baker's
Would you want him back, though?
From that perspective, I'm fine with him being back. I just think at this point, he's not really a fit. I personally have no faith he's going to stay healthy because he hasn't stayed healthy.
Now, that's fair, but not really a fit. We need a wide receiver in a bad way. Another one. I've got to give Watson Watson all the tools necessary because I've given you $230 million. I've banked everything I have on you, right?
Yeah.
So why would I not tool you up so you can be successful?
It's your great card, your opinion.
Yeah.
G, what do you got?
Man, I got him at a B. I think I gave him B, right? B+, B-, somewhere around there.
Let's see what you got.
B+.
I gave him B+.
And you look very happy about it.
Yeah, I like happy about that.
That's kind of like an A face, really.
So he can do a couple things to get to A. For me, my thing is this. I'm the first dude who said it. You got 6 games. I stand on all of that. I still stand on it.
You stand on it?
When we was drinking the 6-0 Kool-Aid and I seen what we was looking like, I said, no, never again. I don't do blind trust. One of our next thing is, do we owe AB an apology? No. All I want you to do is I want you to do your job. But let me remind everybody, the Cleveland Browns came in last place last year.
I don't think you have to remind us.
Some people, you got to remind them.
Into my retinas.
You came in last. You get no concessions for coming in last. Do not collect $200. Do not go past go. I'm giving you the Willy Wonka speech. You touch the ceiling and you have an everlasting gobstopper. Do you know how much that costs? Yeah, Charlie, you're not getting that off. What I'm telling you is this.
You're tripping.
That B, y'all got the B. Y'all got the B right now.
B+. You gave him a B+.
I gave him a B+ right now. But there's some stuff you can do.
What's the move?
To get there.
Okay.
I kind of hedged my bet on this one.
Uh-oh.
Tyvus told me he didn't want to come. But money talk, right? Listen, you give me Bobby Wagner or DJ Shark, I'll step you all the way up to an A. Step you all the way, because now guess what? I got another young, I'm with you. We need another young receiver. We need another receiver. Listen, I need y'all to understand this. This is how I take life. I need more. I hustle. If you get one check over here,
give me more.
I need another check.
Give me more.
If I got insurance over here, I want more insurance.
Yeah, you
right?
gotta have it.
If I got a pair of shoes, give me some more pair. I'm gonna flip this.
Don't get the house with no furniture.
No furniture. Don't do that to yourself.
Don't do that.
Because guess what? We all desperate.
Breaking the hood rules.
We are desperate. And by the way, I love the feeling of being desperate. I love the feeling of being like, oh yeah, listen. Somebody trying to come get me. They testing you. They don't even think you good no more.
I'm about to lose these checks.
I like everybody on the Cleveland Browns roster looking over their shoulder, including the coach, including the general manager. Because here's what happens. In cutthroat organizations, in Fortune 500 companies, they always innovating. They always looking for the next thing. They got money they put just for research and development. That's all they do. And if it fails, so what? Guess what? That's how
they fire the little guy and the rich people stay rich either way.
If you're smart enough,
welcome to America.
Fire 1,000 employees.
That's how it works.
Welcome to America.
And so what you thinking is, I better not be that little small man on the totem pole. You better stop. Look, you better go to them company
Go
outings.
somebody else, not me.
Listen, you better learn how to network. But the reality of the situation is, the urgency of today is here because I see the Cleveland Browns that have the most pieces and pillars that I've ever seen in my life. You can go from generation from the 50s to the 60s to the 70s, and one thing they'll tell you, they ain't never had the talent they got at every single position of the field. You got Hall of Fame type players in this organization, and I'm not about to sit here and waste these years. I'll go back and look at the 80s and say, what would you have done to get over Elway? What would you go back one time and that one guy that you didn't want to get in linebacker or you didn't want to bring a receiver in? What would you do to just beat Elway during that time period?
And to your point, you can't afford to half-ass it because the top of the AFC is really good.
And so let's go be about it. Yeah. So for me, he's doing a good job, but I believe that if they get one or two more moves, I think that could put them in contention if the guy who you say the guy is that quarterback. And one thing I want to say before we kick it to Jay, I've been talking way too long, is that, look, I like that pressure. I love that pressure on Deshaun Watson because if you get him all the tools you need, guess what? I could go look at him and be like, hey, dog, you can't say we didn't give you nothing. You can't say we didn't give you no good produce.
The pressure.
The pressure on
Keep
you.
pressure on you.
Let's get it done because you don't get a year of reprieve saying, well, I ain't had no receiver. No, we putting that pressure on your shoulders because you got materials.
You ain't getting the Baker Mayfield walk out here. We give you everything you need right here.
Let's get now. Look at your people and round them up and go play with some games.
There's a lot of stuff there to address. Before I give my grade, a couple of quick things. One, he might feel pressure. Two, he'll say, you know my deposit number. Just keep sending those checks. Because whether he's 4-13 or 13-4, he's going to make the same amount of money for the next 4 years, and he knows that.
Yeah, but he don't.
So pressure off. Number one.
He don't want the grief though.
Yeah, he doesn't want the grief. He'll take his $230 million and he'll go live his life somewhere on a secluded island.
Let me ask you,
he doesn't care.
You got to go to the grocery store.
This goes to the court. Do you think he's a competitor?
1,000%. Absolutely.
Do you think he cares about winning?
1,000%. Absolutely.
So that 230 shouldn't matter to him, though.
So do you think that quarterbacks that flame out aren't competitive and don't care about winning?
Eventually. Everybody feels, right.
Look, so what I'm saying is you are not a professional athlete unless you're competitive. Period. Mm-hmm. There's varying levels of it. There are some guys that are just taking a check.
I have to stop you, Jay,
but you
because
don't get into the professional athlete club by accident.
The problem here, I get what you're saying. Here's the problem. You know what neutralizes that? Sometimes the money neutralizes that. That fierce competitor that you have, that you had. As soon as you get that money.
Sometimes. You're absolutely right. Now, here's what we're trying to figure out with Deshaun Watson.
I got to do all that.
We're always asking this question. We've asked it probably more times than any single question since we've started this show. Is he going to be the guy that he was in Houston? The answer to that is nobody here knows.
We don't know.
We all have theories. But now we're starting to get a body of work. The picture's beginning to come into focus. Mm-hmm. It's not like we haven't seen him.
What do you mean?
With Deshaun Watson. Will he return to Houston, Deshaun Watson? See, we have 6 games, a body of work.
But how do you do that?
Where we can look at it and say, well, now I have a better idea of what my answer is going to be.
But Jay, how do you return to form?
So, Brad, this is one of the fascinating things that I've always thought about pro sports is how and when players, individuals, and positions in sports get old. And it happens, by the way, it's happening to the 4 of us. We all aged at a different rate. If we all threw pictures of us up at 40 years old, all of us, we're all the 40th year of our life on our birthdays. Some would look younger, some would look older.
Absolutely.
And in pro sports, we've seen guys. Carlos Baerga was a guy we talked about yesterday. God, at 22, who's going to predict that at 30 he's going to be gone? Like, different body type, different everything. So your metabolism, your genetics have a lot to do with that. Deshaun Watson still looks like the same guy. You can't look at him and say, oh, he's let himself go. Still looks good. What we don't know is the process of a player getting old or losing his fastball. So we're all speculating. Now, the Browns, in their speculation, said, all my chips here, he's going to be that guy.
Right.
And I want to think that. In the worst way, I want to believe
your
that.
Percentage, you said one time was, you said about 60%?
Yes. On where I was that he would return to that guy. Now, the reason is because it's not like we didn't see him at all last year.
Right.
We saw some.
We saw some. And I saw flashes of the old guy. There were a couple of plays where I'm like, that's it. There he is. There he is. I can't see that for stretches. I've got to see that for 85, 90% of his body of work.
Yes.
And,
But
again,
Jay,
that
doesn't mean there's no pressure just because he's made money.
No, but what I'm saying, when I say no pressure, I'm gonna fall on my sword as you have. That's hyperbole. I don't mean no pressure.
Okay.
What I said yesterday was he has the least amount of pressure on him than anyone in the entire organization. I stand by that.
Because of his security.
Because of his financial security.
But I think, Jay, that depends on him, right? Like, if I were Deshaun Watson, I think, now, I never made $230 million. Maybe if I made $230 million, I wouldn't give a crap if I were good at my job or not. Maybe. I don't know.
You would.
I know
you.
I think I would,
and you know what? And I don't want to imply that Deshaun is thinking that. I don't think that.
I know that. But in my mind, I'm thinking, man, he has to be humiliated by how he played last year.
Right.
And I know you said, well, why didn't he turn
You're
it around?
banking on that.
But why didn't he turn around by game 6? And that's fair.
You're banking on that.
Maybe he just wasn't able to put it together.
So here's the body of work that I'm using right now to make my decision.
Yeah.
Those 6 games.
Yeah.
And what we have seen him do since those 6 games came to an end. This is what I was hoping I would see. An Instagram feed that was filled with work stuff. He's going to work. This guy's going to work.
Yeah.
To Okoro's point, he's feeling that heat. He wants that check. He's the first one in and the last one out. Instead, and I don't want to kill him too much for this, crying out loud, they deserve their offseason. They should have fun. I would be more judicious with how I share that because you're giving your critics ammunition when your off-season Insta feed is filled with the World Party Tour.
Is that still doing that? I'm not paying attention.
I haven't looked at it recently. The last time I looked, it was way too heavy.
I mean, listen, if he's not working as hard as he possibly could this offseason, shame on him.
And he might be.
He needs
he
it.
might be, and he's just not sharing that on Instagram, and that's fine. And I'll be the first one in October to say he clearly put in the work. Brad, you know what someone told me once about pro sports?
What's that?
Season to season. I think it was I was watching a Yankees spring training game this year, and they were talking about the first baseman, the former Cub, Rizzo. They said that Rizzo, when talking to the play-by-play guy, said, you know, every year I show up at spring training, every year since I've been in this league, I show up with this deep fear in my gut that I'm going to fail, that I can't hit anymore, because I know how hard this game is. And every year I show up and I'm like, is this the year that I got a little bit slower? Is this the year that...
Yeah.
And that's fair.
That's fair.
And someone once told me about professional athletes that time between seasons, last game of one season to the first of the next, that's when you can see what did they do in the offseason? Did they put in the work?
That's it.
Or did they give it lip service?
There's a formula.
You could never hide it, could you?
There's a formula. So I will tell you that I've witnessed 2 significant, because it's not about the money at that point. It's not about the money. You have, so Jordan, who is arguably the greatest player who ever played the game, who was making the most money, had a fear of failure.
Right. That's what motivated him.
And that kept him going.
Did anyone work harder than Michael that you ever saw?
Nah, I mean, I've seen some guys work hard, but he was for a guy of his stature.
It was him.
It was him. He worked hard. So I saw another transformation. Do you remember when the Lakers in the early '80s, when the Lakers in Boston, Bird, were going back and back in Champions Series, and then the Lakers end up losing to the Celtics, and then McHale started calling Magic Johnson Tragic Johnson because he was throwing he had a bad finals.
Right.
Yep.
Between the end
Magic
of that finals
went back in the lab.
and went back in the lab and came back that year, Magic Johnson, between those 2 periods, because Magic Johnson was making a lot of money at that time.
Right.
He was never worried about money.
It wasn't about the money.
But he wanted to win.
It was about his reputation and what because he cared.
That's what Watson better be working on.
That's what I don't know. I hope he is.
Magic cared about what people thought of him.
Right.
And that drove him.
And see, so my again, I'm using all this little evidence that I've gathered. I'm thinking, how would have I responded in the almost 2 years of not taking a snap? And the whole world thinks I'm a world-class jerk.
Yeah.
I would have buried my head, shut my mouth, done my work, and counted down my minutes to when I could show the world.
So I could show you.
Eat it.
Yeah.
Eat it.
Yeah.
Because I can still do this at the highest level. So I knew there'd be rust. Didn't think it would be all 6 games. I had really high hopes that this guy was going to be the guy that Magic was after he was called out. And he might still be. And I'm not going to cast my final judgment yet. I'm just saying, as I'm sitting here and looking at all the evidence, his Instagram feed, what he did in those 6 games, how he's conducted himself in public, I thought he would be at every fundraiser in Cleveland from the end of last season till today. I thought I'd be seeing him handing out checks, visiting boys and girls clubs. I'm told that's the guy he is, and I believe that, by the way. I believe that Deshaun Watson is a very good person. I believe that because I've had people that I trust and know that know him well tell me that. So all of that being said,
some of them still could be doing.
I hope he's it. I know we got off on a wicked tangent. My grade's A-. I'm at Bull. I'm stunned. Not only did I have an A-. How can I make it better?
You gave us a B+.
I did?
Yeah.
God, I could have sworn I said A-.
He's drinking his own Kool-Aid.
No. Yeah, you're right. Here's how you get it to an A-.
Okay. All right.
Bobby Wagner
Okay.
or Renfro.
Yeah.
Those are my guys. And it doesn't have to be both. Obviously, I don't think it can be both. If I have a preference, it's Bobby Wagner. Because I think that he's done a masterful job this offseason because for him, he's playing whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
You had 3 heads sticking out of the machine. And they were defensive line, wide receiver, and linebacker. And it's really hard to knock all 3 down and keep them down at the same time. That's the game in the NFL.
Yeah.
And I think he really addressed the defensive line first because that was the biggest, ugliest mole was the defensive line. And I think with Okoronkwo and Tomlinson, great way to address that problem. And I think he's filled in the gaps with other guys. But I really think this is weird. You said that they've had, we've looked at a lot of their offseason moves in the past and then they haven't panned out. If there's an Ethan Posich in this group,
right,
and he stands up and becomes an all-pro caliber player that we have to re-sign to a long-term deal, and he does that 2 years in a row, then that C- that I'm giving him for his overall talent acquisition grade, I think that comes up to a B. He can do that much damage with one good class, draft, free agents, and trades. So I want to commend him for the work that he's done this offseason. Every single area that we killed him for, the defensive coordinator, the special teams coach, the defensive line play was poor, our wide receiving core is thin. 4 of those 5, linebacker being the one glaring weakness right now, 4 of those 5 moles are back in the machine.
Well, and overall, if you look at it, position group by position group, right?
Yeah.
The quarterback is well, I guess technically they got worse because you got a worse backup. I'll say that because you got a worse backup.
I'll give you that.
But and I guess I would argue running back room,
is worse. With Kareem Hunt gone and Dearness Johnson is gone.
Right. Wide receiver better.
Yep.
Tight end, I think slightly better because what's his name? Akins a little better than the other guy. Offensive line is the same.
Yeah.
But on defensive line should be significantly better.
Significantly.
Linebacker the same.
Yeah.
And secondary, I think is slightly better.
Yeah.
But even the downgrades at backup quarterback and backup running back are not catastrophic in any way.
Yeah, because they weren't pivotal pieces. It's not like we lost Chubb.
And Jerome Ford could end up being just as good as Kareem Hunt was this past season.
I think he will be.
Yeah, so
I have high hopes for Jerome Ford.
And we only have to worry about the backup quarterback if Watson gets hurt. So
now, if they're awful and I'm drinking Kool-Aid right now, then
who knows?
I'll admit it. In October or November, we thought these guys were going to help. They're just a bunch of pigs.
Right.
I hope we're not saying that.
No.
I hope we're not because I think it's the studs and duds that we've talked about. And there was this void of guys in between. And when you look at rosters like the Bengals, and even the Chiefs this year, the Chiefs had a ton of rookies this year.
Yeah,
and look what they did.
Right.
So the formula for success is to have the superstars in the pieces where you need them. And by the way, we do. By superstar, I don't know if Amari Cooper's still a superstar, but I think he's, we call him a 1.
Pro bowler.
Yeah, he's that guy. Yeah. Deshaun Watson was that guy. Yeah. Hope he can get back. Nick Chubb is that guy. Myles Garrett is that guy.
Batonio.
Now you can't have a precipitous fall off where you've got a big upper tier and then a huge gap. But the Bengals have a lot of guys together, and I love the way you talk about them. you know what? They're pretty good. He's pretty good. He's not great. He's good, capable guys that work together that don't get burned 5 times a year on these inexplicable long touchdowns like the Browns did.
Yeah, I mean, the Bengals don't have any Myles Garretts on defense, but they have no
but Reader's pretty damn good.
Listen, Reader's really good. Hendrickson's really good. Logan Wilson's really good.
They've got a lot of really goods.
They don't have any zeros.
Yeah, you're right.
They don't have any zeros.
Yeah, and
the Browns had too many zeros on defense.
Well said.
And now, they still may have a zero at one of the linebacker spots, but they have less because they had 2 zeros they have all zeros at defensive tackle.
Yeah.
And now they, at the very least, have one that's way above a zero.
Right.
So what's going to happen to Kareem Hunt?
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't want to be a running back in a free agent market today.
There's no money.
There's no money. I saw yesterday that Zeke is down to 3 teams.
Well, but then there was another. So the report from Schefter was he's down to the Bengals, the Jets, and the Eagles.
That's what I saw.
But then there was a report later in the day that those are the 3 teams he wants to go to, not necessarily that they're interested in him. Because
what is he going to get? What is he going to get?
Not much.
Maybe $5 million at best.
I don't know that there's going to be a team that gives him that.
Maybe $5 million with incentives.
Yeah.
But
it will be an incentive deal.
I actually do. I mean, I don't know what the Bengals at this point. I guess are not cutting Mixon. I don't think Zeke at this point is better than Mixon. Mixon didn't have a great season last year. I still think he's better than Zeke. Although the one thing with Zeke that for a team like the Bengals and even the Bills, he's a great blitz picker upper.
Yeah, he is. Although he's not a very good center.
No, he's not a good center, but he's great at picking up the blitz, and he's good in short yardage. And that's, if you're a passing, like the Bengals throw a lot, the Bills throw a lot, the Chiefs throw a lot. So he can fit with those teams. You don't want him to be your bell cow back, but he can fit with those teams.
The other thing in Cincinnati, he's just a stone's throw away from Columbus. So I saw.
Yeah, that's why it is interesting. I thought it would be interesting to see in Cincinnati.
I don't think Kareem Hunt's getting more than $2-3 million.
I don't either. I think two and a half, maybe 2, 5 years.
Zeke's asking for his college number back. Wherever he goes.
Yeah.
Is he?
Yeah, 15.
Interesting.
I think if I'm Kareem Hunt, I'm just trying to. I don't even care about the money this year. I try to go to a place where I can be the lead back.
Kareem could come back here. I can see him coming back here for.
I just don't think they're going to spend that money on him.
Well, I mean,
although it's not a lot of
the
money.
fact that he hasn't signed anywhere else leads
I'd bring him back.
That possibility.
I mean, if I can get him for $2-3 million, I'd bring him back.
All right, we got a top of the hour read.
12 o'clock, which means it's time to remind everybody that the noon lunch hour of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show is brought to us by Calder Racing, the official NASCAR team of Northeast Ohio. And joining us now is Jim Rosenhaus, and our first guest of the day is always brought to us by Lincoln Electric, the #1 provider of electric in Northeast Ohio, according to Mike Lucas, and also is hiring for all positions. What's up, Jim? Thanks for joining us.
Morning, guys.
Jim,
or afternoon, I guess, there.
What's the temperature there, Jim?
Maybe 62, 63, but it's sunny.
That's all that counts. Yeah, you just got to have the sunshine.
Yeah, but it's 9 in the morning. I mean, 62 at 9 in the morning. I mean, come on, Jim. I can't complain.
It might get to 70.
Yeah, there you go. Jim, what's your favorite place to eat in Goodyear, by the way?
You know what? I went to a place yesterday. We were actually over in Scottsdale, the Carlsbad Tavern. Unbelievable tacos and burritos. They have a Maine lobster enchilada that's off the charts. So I'm going with that.
Yeah, the Mexican food in Arizona is a whole lot better than it is in Cleveland. Let's be honest.
We're
not known
Italian
for Mexican
place.
food here.
I can't remember the name of it. It's where Danberg took us when we were out there last week. Italian place not far from Goodyear that was really, really good. Really good. I hadn't been there before. But
Bella Luna.
That was it. It was tremendous. Really good food. I love their sauce. Hey, your thoughts right now as we're getting close to wrapping up spring training and going to the start of the season. Obviously, we had some concerns about could some of those first-year players get stuck in sophomore slumps. Oscar wasn't hitting the ball great. He's been hitting it a little better lately. What's your kind of thumbnail assessment of this team as they get ready to head north and start the season?
Before we get to that, can I just say I would like to somehow work in the word blitz picker-upper today? I like that word.
That's right,
I love
Jim.
that.
It's good,
Blitz
right?
picker-upper. I'm going to see if I can somehow talk to one of the Guardians players and see if they know what a blitz picker-upper is.
I love it. I love it. I want to hear that.
It's funny. We all knew what he was talking about.
That's good.
Good point, Jim.
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
I want to know your
quicker
thoughts
picker
on
up
the
or the blitz picker
Guardians
upper?
as they get ready to break spring training, and where you think they are as they're getting ready to start the season?
You mentioned concerns about young players who had really good seasons a year ago. Can they duplicate that? And I'm sure that's something that Terry Francona is keeping an eye on. I think it's been a really good spring. You mentioned Oscar Gonzalez taking a little bit to get going. His first home run last night, he had 3 hits on Monday. So I think it's starting to come around for him. And that would be one of those young players that I think falls into that category that you got to keep an eye on and see if they can match or take that next step forward to what they did a year ago. I feel like Stephen Kwan has the type of game that he'll be just fine, and he's been doing it all spring, exactly what he did last season. Guys, I think what it's going to come down to for this club, they really had a good season a year ago staying away from key injuries.
Yeah.
And if they can do that again, I think they'll be just fine. It's hard to do. And I think what we saw last year was the Twins and the White Sox had some major injury issues. And that really hampered them down the stretch when the Guardians, had their whole crew together most of the season. So that bears watching. If they do have injuries, how do they handle it? But I think it's on the radar, the sophomore slump, as they say, for a lot of these young players. But I think there's enough veteran players here too that can help those young players along this season.
Jim, the one guy, I usually ignore spring training numbers for the most part. However, I was just curious because I haven't seen him pitch that much, and I'm sure you've seen every start. Tristan McKenzie has really struggled. He got blown up again. What was it, Wednesday, I think it was? I can't remember now. Are you concerned about him at all and his struggles in spring training, or is it just he's working through what he's got to work through, and he'll be fine when the season starts?
It's funny, Bull, because you're right. Like, you don't want to be too concerned about spring training numbers, especially for pitchers. And Tito brought up a good point yesterday. Nobody's pitching to a scouting report yet.
Right.
And I think that's helpful for a lot of pitchers once the regular season gets going. A lot of times they're, today I think I'm going to work on fastball command, or maybe I'll throw my slider a little bit more because that hasn't been coming around. But you're right. I mean, he's still, as of his last start against the Dodgers, there's still some areas there where he's allowing more runs than we've grown accustomed to from him, especially last season. So he'll make one more start down here, and we'll see. I mean, he gave up the runs early against the Dodgers and then settled in pretty well after that. So I don't think he's concerned at all. I don't think Carl Willis is concerned. The pitching coach, he said just a little bit of command issues, but they don't seem concerned at all. The velocity's there, all that kind of stuff. The pitches seem sharp, but he's missing his spots a little bit more than we've grown accustomed to.
Cal Quantrill was a guy that Jason Lloyd, one of our panelists here, joined us from spring training earlier in the week, and he said that, Tito went up to Cal and said, look, relax. You're pitching like crap, but you always pitch like crap in spring training. And then I saw last night he went out and threw 5 2/3 of hitless baseball. So apparently the message was received, and I was really glad to see him turn the corner because he's a guy that the Guardians, we know what the front of the rotation is going to be. I'm more worried about the Plezaks and Cals and the back end. And it was nice to see he went out there and had the outing that he did last night.
He did. We were over there last night, and he was phenomenal. And for him, too, a couple of fastballs in the mid-90s, which you don't necessarily think of with him. So I think he's ready to go. He's had kind of a convoluted spring because of being with Team Canada for the World Baseball Classic. So he had a 2-week stretch there where he wasn't on rotation, so to speak, but looked really good last night. And that might circle back to your questions about McKenzie. All it takes is that one start where you put up a good line and everyone feels much better. But it's not as if before last night they were doubting Cal Quantrill and what he can bring to this club.
Right.
Tito has always said, look, you go on track record, especially with veterans. The worst spring training pitcher ever was Brian Shaw. And every year he'd come out here and get lit up, and then he would be a real steady guy in the bullpen for the Guardians. So I don't think they're worried too much about Quantrill before last night, and then last night was a beauty, so they feel really good, I'm sure, heading into the season.
Jim, you referenced the World Baseball Classic there with Quantrill. I know the Guardians didn't have a huge presence in the Classic like we've seen, like the Cardinals did, the Phillies did. They had a lot of players, especially on Team USA. We were talking about it the other day. I thought the tournament was great. I like a large. There is a segment. I think it's getting smaller of the old school baseball fans that are like, we don't need this crap, blah blah blah. And I think I kind of had that attitude when this first started years ago. And I've slowly gone the other way, and now to the point where I was into this. I really enjoyed it. Obviously, the players are enjoying it. The competition is great, and I thought it was excellent for the sport. Where do you stand on that, and what have the players been saying to you about it?
Everything you just said, I agree with, and I think here's what helps. I went to a game last week here in Phoenix. They had one of the regionals, and I didn't want to go to a USA game. I wanted to go something different and see how it was. Yeah. I took my family Wednesday at noon in downtown Phoenix. It was Mexico, Canada. We had a ball. Yeah. The place was probably 3/4 full. It wasn't sold out. 90% fans rooting for Mexico, and it was wild. I mean, noisemakers, hats, horns, everything. And they were just going bonkers over their team, and they ended up winning. It was really fun. We walked out of there and said that was a blast. Yeah. And just talking to probably the most the player who had the most good, I guess, positive experience with it would have been Andres Jimenez. The Guardians' second baseman was with Team Venezuela. They were in Miami. Every game was sold out, and they made a little bit of a run to the next round. And he said it was as fun a time as he had at any point in baseball, which I mean, this was a playoff club here last year, and they had so many great moments. But he just said playing for your country and in that environment was really, really good. And I think what was good this year for Team USA, guys like Mike Trout played, and that was good. I think they still need to figure out how to get more of the top-line pitching to take part, and that's still a hard sell for a lot of teams to allow. Bieber would have been a guy to play in that, but
we talked about that.
It's good for the Guardians that he didn't, probably. So I think that's what they're working through. But Bull, the things that you said, I really enjoyed it. I watched a lot of the last couple of games on TV, and it was fun.
Yeah.
Hey, Jim, I got a question for you. We've had a couple Guardians on throughout the summer promoting Guards Fest. We had Will Brennan in particular, who was an awesome personality. You're around the team a lot more than we get a chance to be. Who is some guy, maybe not a star, but one of the guys on the roster who has a infectious personality, a kind of guy that draws everyone else in the clubhouse around?
I mean, the obvious. Jose Ramirez, and you can't really have a lengthy conversation with him because of the language barrier, but he's just funny. He really is. As good a player as he is, he makes guys laugh in that clubhouse. They'll miss Austin Hedges for sure, and we're kind of waiting to see if there's someone else who might bring up the silly factor a little bit, because certainly Hedges was there with that. Josh Bell's as nice as they come, but seemingly, at least right now, a little quieter and more laid back. But, guys like Cal Quantrill, he's fun to talk to, good conversation, big hockey fan, obviously being from Canada, things like that. I'm sure I'm forgetting some people, but it's just that, there's so many young guys. It's almost, you don't want to say like a college atmosphere, but they're pretty loose. And you walk into that clubhouse, and Jay, you were out here for a little bit, and, there's card games going on. They're playing chess a lot, which you don't see, or you didn't see until last year when Quan showed up, and he's a big chess guy. So is Mackenzie. So there's all kinds of good stuff going on. And when you say who's the character and that type of thing, it takes a little bit to get into the season to truly figure that out, especially this time of spring training, because there's still some cuts to be made and guys are a little tight and that kind of thing, just wondering what their future might be. So it's a little bit different vibe, but I think once they set the team and we're in Seattle next week, that's when you'll see things be a little bit different, and you might be able to find out a little bit more. But Jose Ramirez, top of the list for sure in terms of characters, no question.
Jim, you look at Jose Ramirez, you look at Oscar Gonzalez, you look at Rosario. Obviously, they had Bell. Where do you see the increased power numbers coming from? Where do you see any power numbers coming from? Maybe somebody you don't expect, and do they have to increase the home runs in order to compete? I would say in the playoffs.
Well, if Josh Bell, he's hit 37 in a season. I know he was down a little bit home run wise a year ago, but it'd be interesting to see starting a season, spring training with a new team and kind of getting comfortable. And he hit a bomb last night that might still be going. Yeah. That's certainly a power source. Mike Zunino has it. He has it in his DNA. I mean, he's had a 30-plus home run season, but he's coming off an injury, so you don't want to put too much of that on him. In terms of the young guys, I think Oscar Gonzalez can be a big home run source. There's no question. They're still working through some inconsistencies in terms of chasing pitches and laying off pitches outside the strike zone. He's got tremendous power. Josh Naylor has tremendous power, and I know he had a good season a year ago, but he's more healthy this year. He had to really manage coming back from a major leg injury from the year before, and he managed that all last season and still hit 20 home runs. But he's had a huge spring. So, I think power-wise, it's in there for some of these guys. Maybe there's someone unexpected that goes on a tear this year power-wise, but I think those would be your, in addition to Ramirez, Bell, Naylor, Gonzalez would be 4 prime power candidates, and they're right in the middle of the lineup, stacked up pretty good.
Jim, last year the kids had so much opportunity, and we saw a lot of them. Some of them now are fixtures in the starting lineup, but that's not going to be the case this year because a lot of those question marks we had going into last year have been answered. I know Arias is having a good spring. Will Brennan's hitting the ball. Like, where are those guys going to fit in to this club throughout the year?
I think to start, they'll be scrambling to get at-bats. But both of those players that you mentioned, they can hit.
Yeah.
And don't be surprised if one or both, a couple of months into the season, you're seeing them in the lineup somehow, some way, every day.
Wow.
Because there's going to be an injury. There's going to be someone who struggles unexpectedly. It's going to happen. It does every season to every team. And those two seem primed to take advantage of an opportunity. Again, they might have to scramble early on because you would think, Arias is kind of a super utility guy and Brennan would be your 4th outfielder. But Tito has a way of kind of finding that hot hand and figuring out a way to ride those type of players. And both of those guys you mentioned would be 2 prime candidates to fall into that category.
I'm still hoping for a Brian Reynolds trade. I know it's probably not going to happen at this point. But
2 years we've been talking about.
He's been waving that flag.
Reynolds is making reasonable money. He'd be a perfect fit. But okay. But let me ask you this.
You're not holding your breath on this, are you, Bull?
Nah, I better not. I would have been long dead by now. But let me ask you, in terms of the pitching, I actually have some concerns about Plesac and Savali. For me, I don't trust either guy. And I'm thinking about the second half of this season. If those guys are not where they want them to be, is it more likely they have a little payroll flexibility to trade for a veteran? Or could we see Gavin Williams? Could we see Bibby? Like, are those guys in the plans if they pitch well and stay healthy for this year, even if it's not till June?
I think it's that second option you talked about, the younger guys. Although I will say, and gosh, it's spring training, everybody's optimistic. Yeah. But Plesac's looked really good here the last couple of starts, and Savali's been really solid all spring. So I think the wild card for them the last couple of years is they've had goofy injuries, and they haven't been able to stay healthy. And I think if they can, they'll have the type of seasons that we've seen from them in the past, not the recent past, but going back a little bit. So, but I would think there's a strong belief in some of the young arms in the system, and their time is not at the start of this season, but as you mentioned, maybe midway through, if there's a need, I think you could see some of those names that you mentioned, Bybee and Williams being right at the top of that list, but there's others too. So it'll be interesting. And again, who's to say if they're in a really good position, do they pull off the type of deal like they did in 16, where they went after an established game-changing type veteran pitcher like an Andrew Miller? I don't know what that means this year, starting pitching-wise, who's available, but maybe they do look at it as, you have a really good team right now going into the season, and what would that extra push look like around the trade deadline?
Yeah, well, you just brought up my point, Jim. Let's spice this up a little bit. You talk about trades. Now, let's see. Let's get in the trade machine. My fellow colleagues here put together one of the best trades of all time for Shohei Ohtani. Now, here's what we can do. Let me ask you about this trade. I know you're a serious journalist, so you might be like, these guys are crazy.
No, I'm not.
So how we gonna spice this up is, now I don't know these prospects, so give it up to them.
We were having the conversation, Jim, about the question was asked, even though you can't sign them long term, would you trade, even though you have to give up a ton of prospects to get them, and we know the Guardians would never actually do this, or at least we assume they would never actually do this, would you trade whatever it took essentially to get Shohei Ohtani? And I said he's so unique, and I don't think outside of the Astros that the American League has any other teams that are that great, that I would do it because he's so special. Attendance would rise. That I would do it. I said even if I got to trade Gavin Williams, I'll try to keep one between him and Bibby. But if I got to trade them both, I got to trade Arias. I got to trade Valera. I know. I have so much confidence in the Guardians front office to replenish all those tools, all those young players, that I would go all in and essentially do whatever it takes to get Ohtani.
Your thoughts?
When did we do this? Is
in
like
July,
right now, or do we wait for the trade deadline?
No, so here was the real hypothetical.
I'd prefer to do it now, but we were talking trade deadline.
And so the hypothetical hype machine, the way we worked it was, they're like 20 games over 500 at the All-Star break. Okay. They're well-positioned. They've got a nice, comfortable lead in the Central, but, they're still maybe a little bit behind either the Astros or the Yankees or both. This would be the move that you add a bat, you add an arm. Like, what more do you want? Would you do it?
I'm going to go counter. If I had to do it then for 2 months of him to give up all those guys, no. If we're doing it tomorrow, I think a lot more strongly about it to get a whole season of Ohtani. And I get what you're saying. You want to see where we are. But if we're going to do this, let's do it now. And have him for the whole year, because you're going to lose him at the end of the year.
Well, the reason I wouldn't do it now, Jim.
2 months, you want the whole thing, don't you?
I know, but Jim, the reason I'd be afraid to do it now, because in Cleveland sports lore and in recognizing and acknowledging the curse of Rocky College. Oh, I live in my fears.
I know you do.
I am my fears. But in acknowledging that the curse of Rocky Colavito and all that nonsense, the Guardians would trade for him, and God forbid, I'm not even going to mention any names, but key frontline talent go out with season-ending injuries in April or May, and then you start saying, oh, my God, we gave away the farm, and for what?
But that could happen in July, too.
It could, but your chances of it happening are less. I live in my fears, Bull.
Now, wait a minute, Jay. You can't make a trade based on or not make a trade based on a guy who might get hurt. You got to just believe in them.
Want to bet? Because I'm telling you, this is Cleveland, Jim. This is what happens to us.
I know.
So you say you would do it?
If we could do it tomorrow, like right now before the season began.
Yeah.
Because look at last year, what a boost it was when they signed Ramirez just as the season began. It was a big boost. So you do it now.
It's a big catalyst. You're right.
Could you imagine
and then you clear up all, like if there's any roster issues with your 40-man roster, that's cleared up because you move all these guys.
Exactly.
I mean, everything's coming together.
Think about the excitement of the players, and think about the excitement of the fans. You would immediately have a ton of tickets sold for the year.
We have our headline from your appearance. Rosenhaus tells guards, pull trigger now. Rosie, we love you, brother.
Thanks, Jim.
I'm gonna have to wear sunglasses to the complex today and avoid Chris Antonetti and Mike Chernoff.
That's right.
They set me up.
Tell him to get it done.
If we were TMZ, that would be our headline. Rosie tells guards, pull trigger now.
I'm never going back.
That's what makes baseball great, though, isn't it? You can talk trades till the cows come home.
Tell Mike his dad would pull the trigger for the #1 sports talk guy, so he better pull the trigger for Ohtani.
See you, Rosie.
Thanks, Jim.
Wait, we're done? I gotta go?
Hey, we'd love to keep you, man.
We got our highlight now.
Don't forget your sunglasses.
Yeah. We've got
Thanks
our
for the
headline.
time, guys.
We're good to go.
Thanks, Jim.
You know what?
We'll get Jim back. He
that
was
is-
awesome. We'll get Jim back.
Jim was great. That's what's so fun about baseball. Like, you can spitball on trades like that, and you're right, likely never to happen. But
Yeah.
could
Right.
you
Oh,
imagine
my God.
this city
that'd
would
be-
go bananas?
I would actually be a Dolan fan. I would let nobody talk bad about him ever. I walk into cafes. You shut up. You say nothing about him. Shut your mouth.
It is funny, Bull, that we didn't even really talk about this, but Rosie touched on it. It does clear up the 40-man roster issue. Because we've got guys that we may lose control of.
That
We're
are
gonna have to
never
pick and
gonna
choose.
play.
I mean, they basically gave away Will Benson and Nolan Jones.
You're right. You're
And
right.
y'all told me about Nolan Jones for 45 years.
We loved him.
And I
Benson
never
was a
saw
first-round
him.
pick.
Yeah, so let's just unload 4 or 5 of those and get a Shohei
That's
Ohtani.
right. That's
Can
right.
you imagine?
Because the reality is they're not all going to pan out anyway.
And then let me just continue this mythical dreamland scenario.
yeah.
They win the World Series, and Dolan proclaims at the World Series celebration, "We've just inked Ohtani to a 10-year, $500 million deal."
Great.
And we
that
each get a
hypothetical-
pony for Christmas.
And that's
It's brought
done.
to you by Colleague Racing, the official NASCAR team of Northeast Ohio, and the hypothetical trade machine on the Ultimate
Man, that might
Cleveland
revive
Sports
East
Show.
Cleveland. You 500 million.
Yeah, you think LeBron had? We'd have Asian restaurants all over Cleveland. Everywhere in Cleveland. They make sure that he felt comfortable, and that he had plenty of places where he felt home.
Hey.
A Japanese restaurant on every corner.
Let's do it.
For Shohei. Let's
Let's
get it
go.
done.
Wow.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little Jose, though, because Ohtani
Jose.
Came in number
Jose.
By the way, that's the best theme music.
Isn't it?
It's awesome.
Well, Edwin Diaz's intro.
Oh, no, that's the best.
That's the best.
That has better than Sandman?
No.
I think it's better than
It actually
Sandman
is better.
now.
But Rivera's so great. But
How about when they had Timmy Trumpeter? What's his name? Timmy Trumpet?
I think it's
Edwin
Timmy
Diaz. It was the Narco song.
Yeah, but
Timmy Trumpet's played.
Timmy
it,
Trumpet, yeah,
That's
but
crazy.
when they had him in
the
stadium,
stadium. Yeah.
at Citi Field, and he was playing that live on Sunday Night Baseball, and here comes Diaz.
Yeah.
I'm not a Mets fan. I had goosebumps.
Yeah, that was cool.
I'm like, this is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. We need
Right.
more of this.
You know he was there
Flair
for
gun.
4 games before that happened.
Was he really?
They're waiting for a save. They just didn't have a save opportunity for 4 games.
I didn't know that
Yeah.
part of the deal.
had
Well,
to come
that's
every
pretty
week.
funny.
Yeah.
Damn.
That's pretty
The Jose
funny.
chant is a good one.
I love it. Yeah.
All you missing is the flares. You let us have flares.
Oscar Gonzalez, we'll get to the Jose thing in a second. Does
You're going
Oscar
European
Gonzalez
soccer on
use
them.
SpongeBob SquarePants as his walk-up song again this year?
That was a. That was
got to, doesn't
That
he?
was
He's
a
kind
good
of
one.
known for that.
That was
Can't
kind of
change
dope
it
too.
now.
I mean, you could, but you could go kind of in that same genre and go with another like cartoonish theme.
The problem, though, is, as you know, Jay, baseball players are very superstitious.
That's true.
And
Yeah,
so,
that's
like,
true.
he had a good year with that
Don't
theme
mess with
song.
success.
I can't mess with
Don't
that.
mess. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Okay, so do you want to take us through this? You got the graphic?
I do, yes. So just to set everybody up, Jose Ramirez, or let me go back. ESPN released their top 100 players for the 2023 season. This was not what you've done in the past. This is not future project. This is the best players heading into the season.
Right.
And as always, Jose Ramirez gets the short end of the stick here. So we're going to run through the top 15 here because Jose Ramirez doesn't come in till that bottom 5 number. So, Steve, take 212 full. We'll run through 1 through 5. Ohtani at 1, no surprise. Mike Trout at 2. How about the Angels with the top 2 players in baseball?
Yeah, and can't win a
Aaron Judge
thing.
at 3. Manny Machado at 4, which could be a little questionable. And Freddie Freeman at 5. Steve, go to the next one, 213. We'll run through 6 through 10. Juan Soto at 6. Julio Rodriguez at 7, which might be the most egregious one of them all.
It was a rookie
That's
last year.
high, man.
He
Trey
was
Turner
great
at
as a
8
He was
rookie.
great, but
I
that's
mean,
high.
But that's absurd.
Mookie
7.
Betts at 9, Nolan Arenado at 10. Go to the next one, Steve. We actually have through 20. We're going to run through all 20.
Okay.
11, Sandy Alcantara.
Alcantara.
Excuse me. Paul Goldschmidt at 12. Jose at 13. Then you have Ronald Acuna Jr. at 14. Yordan Alvarez at 15. And to round out the top 20, you have Vlad Guerrero Jr. 16. Francisco Lindor 17. Austin Riley 18. Garrett Cole 19. And Rafael Devers at 20.
All right, let's go back because obviously the Julio. Listen, in the end, whether Jose Ramirez is the 6th best player or the 8th best player,
yeah,
or the
you're
13th,
splitting hairs.
It doesn't really matter.
Right.
He's one of the best players in baseball.
Right.
I can't putting Julio Rodriguez ahead of him is absurd.
Yeah.
Putting Julio Rodriguez ahead of Turner, Betts, and Arenado is also absurd.
Yeah.
Julio Rodriguez, if I'm starting a franchise, yeah, he's 22 years old. I'd love to have him. I think he's going to be a great player, but he's only done it for 1 year. He was a rookie.
That was my problem with the whole thing too.
Juan Soto, and you bring up the point that Juan Soto in what was his 3rd year last year, whatever it was. Maybe it's been a little longer than
Had
that.
a bit of a slump.
He had a terrible year last year, especially after he got traded. So, I would have Jose ahead of both of those guys. I would also have Jose ahead of Trey Turner personally. I'm fine with Mookie Betts being ahead. I mean, Mookie and Jose, it's a coin toss. Same thing with Arenado and Jose is a coin toss as well. What's the next couple of guys before Jose?
Then next is Sandy
Alcantara. I think you spelled it wrong there.
I copy and pasted from Google.
Oh, did you? Okay. It's pronounced Alcantara, even though it looks like Alcantara. Goldschmidt ahead of Ramirez is fine. Alcantara had a great year last year, but that was his first great year.
Yeah, I wouldn't have him in the top 20.
No, so I would have
correctly, by the way.
I would have Ramirez ahead of 4 of the guys ahead of him, so that would move him up to 9, I think.
Yeah,
you know what's
Ramirez is
he
7,
belongs
8, 9.
in the top 10.
Yes, he's 7,
and
8,
there are
9.
guys on there. I always say ESPN is always guilty of taking the cheese. Here's what I mean by that.
Yeah,
they are so enamored by the shiny new toy.
Always.
It's not just baseball, basketball,
always.
football. They'll be the first to exclaim that this person is going to be the greatest of all time. Wow, that's a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah.
Let's see him do it longer. He's a classic example of that. After the All-Star Home Run Derby, they were drunk on that kid. And there's a lot to get drunk on. He is an unbelievable talent.
Love him.
And he's a great kid.
But you can't put a guy in the top 10 after 1 year.
Yeah, come on.
Not after 1 year.
Not after 1 year.
He does what he did last year, 2-3 more years?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Doable. But to your point,
yeah,
it's a league of adjustments.
Of course.
Juan Soto took a step back, a
100%.
pretty big step back.
100%.
And
the thing with Ramirez is, and why he gets sometimes pushed, listen, it's no insult to be the 13th best player according to a list.
No.
Not at all. However, the reason Jose gets ignored a little on these is because he puts up the same numbers basically every year.
Steady.
At a very high level.
Well, I think it's because he plays in Cleveland and he doesn't speak English. And he doesn't look like a superstar.
And he doesn't.
He waddles onto the field.
Right.
He looks like a penguin, not Aaron Judge. And I think he just doesn't look the part.
There's a guy at my
keeps
gym
taking discounts.
Yeah, he took discounts.
When you look at the players above him, Lindor is way too high on this list. But since he get all that money, you got to put him on there.
Also, here's the thing. You talked about the shiny new toy. Some of these other guys are a little more volatile in where they are year to year.
That's true.
None of those guys are ever bad.
Jose is consistently here.
Right. Jose is never the best player in a year, but he's always a top 5 player in a year.
Always.
Where some of these other guys are 1, then 9.
Yeah.
Then 3, then 14.
You know what's interesting about this? Usually when these lists comes out, there's some quibble a little bit about who's number 1.
No, there's none.
None.
I would quibble. I would say I would put Judge now ahead of Trout.
By the way,
no, you can argue all you want for number 2 because I would too.
Yeah.
I think Trout's taken a little bit of a step back, and Aaron Judge with what he did last year should be number 2. But to me, if you talk to baseball fans, I think this is universal now. Ohtani is inarguably the best player in baseball right now, and you can make a case ever.
Well, if you didn't believe it, if you saw the WBC, you saw it.
Yeah.
You saw it on
it's
full
like,
display.
It's like imagine Patrick Mahomes was also a top 10 pass rusher. I mean, that's basically what it is.
You're right.
And by the way, I will say this.
Right?
It'd be fun to watch.
What is very stark to me is that this is, America's pastime, but baseball is dominated by foreign players, not bred in the United States.
Well, there's still a lot of good American players.
I mean, but look at that top 20 list.
Well, Well, Mike Trout and Aaron Judge are both American.
Right, but here's his point, and I will agree with you. I will still say that the United States is the country that produces the most. But if you put the United States against the world,
it's close.
International players are dominating the game.
So
right now.
let's look at the top 20. You got 3 Americans there. Machado's from Puerto Rico, right?
Yeah, and go back.
Well, I count Latin, not Puerto Rico. If you're Latin,
but if you're Latin and born in America, that's
like Latin Americans dominate. But go ahead.
All right, we'll say there's 3 Americans.
Just look at the roster.
Yeah.
Trout, Judge, and Freeman. Team USA would qualify for Team USA.
Okay,
yes, they would.
Okay,
that's how we'll do it.
So Judge, Freeman, USA, right?
So that's 3.
So that's 3 out of 5.
Turner's American. Betts is American.
Arenado's American. He played for Team USA.
Arenado's American too. So that's 6 Americans.
6 out of 10.
6 out of 10. Now let's go to the next core.
Goldschmidt, 11.
Yep.
The rest
and that's
are
the only
all-
one.
That's it in that
So
group.
now it's 7 out of 15.
And then
Cole and Riley.
Cole.
Lindor moved to Florida, but he was
he's from Puerto Rico.
So
I say Puerto Rico.
it's about half. It's just
9
about
out
half.
of the top 20.
Yeah, it's just about half.
Yeah. Right.
Are you Puerto Rican? You American?
Yeah, right? But
Right. Technically
Kinda.
you are, but we'll keep it
but
simple.
Technically.
Those are the
No,
those
you
are the
are.
studs.
But
But when you look at the rosters, like the Guardians roster, when you just scan down it's all these rosters. They're loaded with Latin
If
players.
you combine all the Latin American countries together, it's about equal with the U.S.
Yeah.
no doubt.
Yeah. And for a country that created baseball, and I'm not knocking it, but they put a priority on it. When you go to Latin America, that is a football, that's their basketball. They in the streets playing.
They play soccer too, but it's soccer and baseball.
Yeah, well, the problem is baseball has not kept up with it. Baseball was that thing.
Yeah.
It was. The other sports.
They're playing it in the neighborhoods of all Latin American countries.
Right.
And they're no longer playing it in the neighborhoods in the United States.
No.
We still have an
Especially
organized
in the
Little League
cities.
program, but
Especially in the
inner cities, you almost never see it anymore, even though there's been a really concerted effort and a good job by Major League Baseball to try to bring it back.
Yeah.
The kids are bored by it now.
You rarely see, even in the suburbs, kids going out on their own. You don't see it much.
Where's the baseball
when I was a
diamonds?
kid, I'm sure when you were a kid, Brad, you guys.
Well, look at the movie Sandlot.
Right.
Look
we
at
would
that.
just go to the park with our buddies and play baseball.
It was Americana.
Yeah.
And now it just doesn't, now they're looking at their phones for 20 hours a day.
Yeah.
There were also 5 other Guardians on ESPN's Top 100, and 6, including Ramirez, fell in the top 80. Steve, take the graphic here. Before we move on to our top 5 today, do any of these 5 stand out to you? I feel like it's pretty favorable here to the Guardians.
I thought Juan was high.
I'd have to see who else was there. But he only had 1 year.
Top 100?
Yeah, he was number 79.
That's a lot of players in there.
That seems high, but I would have to look at who's in that group before I.
You know the question we've been asking about which of the Guardians' first-year breakout guys last year do you most feel comfortable with?
Yeah.
In Arizona, the talk about Juan was, this guy's here to stay. This is real.
Yeah, he doesn't feel like a sophomore.
He doesn't feel like with Oscar Gonzalez, you're like kind of holding your breath. If he doesn't get plate discipline this year, he's going to step back. Now, even if his plate discipline is the same, but his home runs go from 11 to 22, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Do what you do. Give us the power. We'll take the 240 instead of a 280.
But you can't hit 240 with no power.
No. Everybody agrees with Juan. The things that he brings to the party, the speed, the defense, and the contact. He almost never swings and misses.
I've been trying
almost never.
I've been trying to get one of them slap hitters forever.
And that's every team needs one. And here he is. And so there's a lot, and not just in the Guardians organization, folks from other teams, when they talk about Stephen Kwan, they'll tell you, this guy's legit. He's a bona fide player. Now, is he 79?
Yeah.
I thought that was high.
I have to see who's 80 through 100. You know, off the top of my head, I'm like, well, I don't know who's in that.
Right.
But
you don't remember who 84 is on that list, Bull?
What's that?
Out of you. You don't memorize number 87?
No. Can you tell me 81 to 85 or no?
No, I can't.
Bull be put. I think they send.
I can make my own top 100.
They still send him game day like little pamphlets, like the joints you used to get.
Game notes.
Yeah, they say he got the little thing. He be tracking them. Please don't tell me you.
I used to do the game notes for the Batavia Muck Dogs every day.
Wow. You'd write them up.
Yep.
Wow. Holy cow.
I was the only team in A-ball that had intricate notes on.
Man.
By the way, one last thing before we turn the page on this.
You're a play-by-plays guy.
If you look at the top 100, the Guardians had 6.
It was the 4th most of any team in the league.
Yeah, that's where I was going.
Yeah.
So if you do it and you think that talent is evenly dispersed, in the top 100, every team should have 3.5 players.
Right.
Not quite
Not
three,
even three
but
and a third.
a 3 1/3 place.
These guys got everybody.
And they've got the
Six.
fourth most and 6 in the top 80, right?
All in the top 80.
Yeah, fourth most, and all theirs are in the top 80.
Yeah, I mean, in theory,
that's incredible,
The top
guys.
80, you should only have 2 2/3 players.
If you do it by average,
Right.
you're right. And
So
here
they
they
have
are
6 in the
with
top 80.
6.
With their payroll, it's amazing.
We got to start hyping this Shohei Ohtani thing up.
It
God.
hits
We
every
really
time.
do, because Rosie is a diehard
I never thought he
baseball
was
guy.
gonna say-
I thought for sure he'd be like,
laughing at him.
you kids are so cute.
I told him,
It was like,
you
you
know
got-
I would do it.
you're a real journalist out
He's
here.
a once-in-a-lifetime player.
That's why you ain't gonna
He
get no
is.
Ohtani.
Right.
Ohtani
To
gonna be in
have that guy
California
play
forever.
even 1 year in Cleveland.
Yeah.
I
And
said.
I'm telling you, the economic benefit that you would reap because of
But see,
Japan and their,
but
it'd
Jay,
be
you know-
nuts.
Jay, you know, Jay, you know you're not gonna get Ohtani out of California. It's just not gonna
I
happen.
can't imagine they
Well,
would trade him.
Listen,
Now, at the All-Star break,
well,
they
he
might.
doesn't have a say in that, by the way.
No, but they're
like
not
if the
gonna do-
Angels,
Here.
if the Angels decide there's no way we're going to sign this guy to a $500 million deal,
Right.
they have to
At
trade him.
least.
They have to move him.
Yeah.
And there are only 2 or 3 organizations that are better positioned than the Guardians to put a package together of young, talented, close to major league ready talent together to steal him away from the Angels.
Unfortunately, one of those other
Is the
teams
Dodgers.
is the Dodgers.
I know, that's what
will
scares
probably
me.
be the team that does it.
So the Dodgers will do it all in one fell swoop. They'll announce the trade, and then they'll say, oh, by the way, we've inked him to a 10-year, $500 million extension.
I think it's more than that.
You do think it'll be more?
I think it might be.
This is messed up.
It's more than
I mean,
over
did Judge get almost $400 million?
360. Yeah, 360 for.
I mean, he's Judge with pitching.
But here's my thing, Bull.
Throw in a Cy Young pitcher along with Aaron Judge.
This is my problem.
Yeah.
This, like, if you put, like, say for instance, you said we're gonna get Giannis and like LeBron
For 1 year.
They'll win every year. You have Trout and Otani, and you guys suck.
And that's the thing
Can't
about
make the
baseball.
playoffs.
And that's
How
the thing
is
about
that?
baseball is
They have to be throwing
you have
games.
to have the team.
No, they're not
They have
throwing
to
games.
games.
You go back to
You
what
talk
we
about
do.
heroes and zeros.
No, you go.
They got the 2 biggest heroes
go
in the game,
back-
according to that, and then they got a lot of zeros
You
after
go back
that.
to what we talked about with the Browns. It is the middle people
Yes.
that make the team.
Especially in
Yes.
baseball more than any of them.
That
Yes,
make the
look
team.
at our middle people. Like you throw Jimenez, Rosario. You know, I wouldn't even put Quan in there. I think Quan's above that. But,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, Jimenez is above that, too.
Probably,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So certainly arcing above that. So you got to have pieces. In baseball, one piece is nice. That's why I am anti-$30 million plus year contracts. You got one piece. What are the other 24?
Well, it depends on what your payroll is, but if you're
Yeah,
Yankees, you
I
can
mean,
afford it. But the bottom line is the Angels have spent. They have a good big payroll.
Huge.
They've spent stupidly besides those 2 guys.
Yeah.
Anthony
You're right.
Rendon was a terrible
Rendon, they
contract.
paid him a ton
Remember,
of money.
we're forgetting that for a long time, they also had 2 of the top 5 players when Pujols and Trout were there together.
That's right. But
and
Pujols
couldn't win
was
with
already
those.
shot by then.
Well, he had some good years in
Yeah, but for the
Anaheim
most part, he
early.
was
but
shot.
for the most part,
Yeah.
they overpaid for that.
I think they could be in contention for a wild card this year. I think it's possible. Their pitching is, at least on paper, is better than it's been in years.
You know who would love to see that now today more than even last week at this time is Major League Baseball.
Oh, sure.
They would love
You want
to
those
see
guys
the
in the
Angels.
playoffs.
Can you imagine an Angels-Dodgers World Series?
Oh, my God.
Major League Baseball
Massive
would
numbers.
die of a stroke.
Well, or the Angels, or the Angels Mets, maybe.
yeah, well, then you got both
Yeah,
coasts.
right.
Yeah, good call.
I got to remind everybody one last time that at the 12 o'clock lunch hour of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show is sponsored by Colleague Racing. Colleague Racing, the official NASCAR team of Northeast Ohio.
Oh,
I gotta talk to that man. I ask him the next time he here. I say, you be really repairing? You be really paying for the repairs?
We talked about that yesterday. I was
here, Jay?
yesterday. Remind me before I leave. I got a box of goodies for you guys from Matt Colleague.
Oh, that's crazy.
Everybody on staff.
That's
So,
crazy.
Nice.
Yeah. See,
Matt-
I'm glad I brought that
Matt's
up.
getting it done. Matt,
I'm glad I brought that up.
yeah, I am too because I'd totally forgotten about it. It's in my car.
That's why I'm on the show.
Mike, you got a top 5 for us.
I do the race report. They are in Austin this week. That's
Okay.
your Colleague Racing report.
Yeah, you know what?
And
So
Allman
listen,
Dinger's gonna
you
win.
guys gave me bad info. You told me he was in Richmond.
I didn't tell you nothing.
Yeah, Earl said they're
Earl,
in Richmond.
what happened? Mr.
Yesterday,
NASCAR,
on
he
Monday,
dropped the ball.
earlier this week, Richmond. So I see Matt yesterday. I go, hey, man, when you leave for Richmond? It's like, next week. I go, you're going to miss the race? He goes, no, I'm going to Austin for the race there this week. I'm going to Richmond for the race next week.
See, man,
Well, you know what? Earl's working from home today, so we
Earl?
can take it up with him.
You're my dude. You know that. I love you, but you gave me some bad info, man.
Do not make
Earl, what happened?
Do not make Simon the Likable look bad. Jay knows all information.
I said it with my chest, too. I'm like, you ready to go to Richmond?
Yeah, I was doing my homework with you, dog. Richmond all day. No, I ain't be there next year.
We're going to do top 5, and then we're going to do a viewer question before we leave, a little preview of overtime today. And today's top 5, Ultimate 5.
You ain't done one of these in a minute, bro. Where you been at, bro?
The worst sports cliches.
This is what we used to do.
Yeah.
We need trumpet music underneath that top 5 animation.
We can play on that.
Yeah.
There was a lot. I'm going to go through the honorable mentions first. I have changed the order. I'm going to let Anthony explain one of these two because we disagreed on a lot of these as what was actually worse than the others. So these were the honorable mentions. These did not make the top 5.
All right.
Nothing Comes Easy. I hate that one. It's
That's a bad choice.
It's a must-win game.
Must-win game. Yeah, there's.
Wait,
No. You got them written down.
They ain't on the screen.
Hold on. You got them written down.
These are honorable mentions, not on graphics.
These are honorable mentions. Yeah, these are not the top 5.
Okay, go ahead. Give them to me again.
Must-win game. That's a good cliche.
That's the most overused.
Yeah,
I mean, the only time you could say that is when it's an elimination
Right.
game.
I thought the first one was unworthy.
Give me your
of
honorable
this.
mentions again, Mikey.
Must-win game.
Okay.
There's no I in team.
Okay.
Can't stand that one.
I hate that one.
It's a game of inches. Nah, football field's 100 yards, man. It ain't inches.
Yeah, but when you miss a touchdown by that much and lose the game, it's a game of inches.
I don't like that cliche, but your analysis of it is false.
And last honorable mention, just take it one game at a time.
Yeah,
Can't stand that one.
That should have been on the list. I
We
think.
hear that one all the time.
Yeah.
One game
I
at a
hate that.
time.
All right, let's go with
So
your
here's
top
the top
5.
5. Number 5,
All right, here we go.
they're just a game manager.
No.
That drives me
That
bonkers
shouldn't be on the
when
list.
you use
That
game.
shouldn't be
It
on
is
there.
lazy analysis to call someone a game
Right,
manager
because
because
it's
in
a
any
pre-
situation, even Patrick Mahomes is technically managing a game.
Thank you.
I
It's a
can't stand
prerequisite.
the
All
game
right.
manager
First of
term.
all, it's not overused. Second of all, it's not a cliche. They only use it. How often does that even get used?
A lot.
Anytime
But
a
it's
quarterback's
only
not
for one
good, they're a
sport.
game
No,
manager.
they
You
use it.
can't mention Trent Dilfer without saying game
But wait
manager.
a second. To me, an overused sports cliche has to be something they use in every sport.
No. This is
not
the
just
most
one.
overused. These are just the ones I hate the most.
Yeah.
Oh,
the
okay.
worst. The worst sports cliches.
But they do use game manager.
But one game at a time and a game of inches are way more used than that.
But
They
if
are.
anybody besides a franchise quarterback is by default a
But
game manager.
it's-
And there's no middle ground. What do you describe it
You
as?
got your Elite 8, and then you got 24 game managers.
That's
All right,
it.
go ahead. No,
and
you're
like I
right.
said, these are not the most overused. These are just, in my opinion, the worst ones.
And it's his list. Like,
Fine.
so we can beat you up all we want.
Yeah, it's
Bull
fair.
mad
disgruntled
about he
over
mad
there.
about that man's list. I hate your phone
fed up
number.
already.
Yeah, how can you not like vanilla ice cream?
That was
Number 4.
was mad
Number
about
4.
that.
It is us against the world. Because in Cleveland, it's us against the world. When I was in Texas, it was Texas A&M against the world. When I was in
Really?
Tennessee, it was NASCAR against the world. When I was in
Everybody.
Boston,
Everybody
it was the
did
Red
that.
Sox against
Everybody
the
does-
world.
everybody
and in
does
New
that.
Jersey,
Mikey,
it was
yeah.
Giants
Mikey
against the world.
finally
Even in
got it right.
Chicago?
No, Chicago.
No, they ain't us against the world. You got Mike.
Did you say I
Everybody
got it right?
or like us against the world and what insert team name here is Mafia it's basically the same thing.
Yeah.
Those are both
Mafia.
annoying.
Oh yeah, that Mafia one that is right.
Yeah.
You're right.
What's number 3?
And it's nothing against Cleveland or any place. It's just
It is
everyone's
annoying,
against the
that
world.
expression.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
against the world.
Yeah.
All right, number 3.
Like in Cambodia, they don't care.
No.
They don't even know about the Browns.
No,
Bodie
at all.
against the world.
He does all the little things right, a.k.a. the worst and
I
laziest way to
love that you
describe.
put a picture of J.J. Redick up there for that.
Yeah.
What the white dude?
I don't even gotta say it. You guys know exactly what
That's
I
what
know
he was
what you mean.
doing.
Yeah, I know
That's
what
what
you
he's
mean.
doing. You can put Wojciechowski up there. You can like who else? Kirk Cousins. Like if you wanted to put anybody that is not overly athletic, but never really gets in
Any
trouble.
white slot receiver in that group.
They do all the little things
all the
right.
little things. I'm like,
First guy in, last guy out.
That was
Oh,
an honorable mention before it
more
got
quick
cut
than
out.
fast.
What's number 2?
Number 2. This one drives me crazy.
Thing,
We have the blueprint.
No.
Just because you have the blueprint
That
doesn't
I
mean you
don't
know how
know
to
who
stop
says
it.
this.
nobody says that.
Yeah,
Who
you
says
still
that?
you still need the pieces.
Mike, no.
Listen, the blueprint to stop Tom Brady.
have the
I've got
is
the
to get
blueprint.
pressure up the middle.
I'll give you a blueprint real quick.
Yeah.
For every sport, score more than the other team, you win.
Yeah.
Done.
Blueprint.
Done.
Now go do it.
That expression doesn't get used
I
much.
don't.
not a ton.
I've never heard
No.
it.
That's
Yeah,
not a
it's not a
cliche.
cliche.
So Mikey, here's a good cliche. Here's a good one for you. This is do or die.
Yeah,
that was also on the initial list.
Do or die is the same as must-win game.
One, Mike.
What's your number one worst sports cliche?
This one, I can't stand. It drives me absolutely bonkers when people use it. I have tried at my hardest not to use it, and it's not the most common one. This one it really irritates me. Take it, Steve. The game is all mental. You know what game's all mental? Chess.
100%.
You know what game's not all mental? When you're tackling somebody, when you're trying to tackle.
When you have to run fast.
Space, when you have to try and stay in front of Donovan Mitchell in a one-on-one with a 7-footer setting a screen for you. It is not all mental.
I don't think Mikey knows the definition of cliche.
Yeah, what we're getting caught up in here is phrases.
Phrases. Right. Maybe I should have said phrases.
Yeah, phrases, I think, is where you wanted to go.
Right. Or like a cliche that I don't like, he's the emotional leader of the team.
Here's another cliche for you. It's Super Bowl or bust. It's championship or bust.
Here's another one. Back against the wall.
Back against the wall.
Yeah.
That was also
cliche. A phrase or opinion that is overused and betrays a lack of original thought.
Right.
Well, I guess
all those
by that definition.
But some of a lack of original thought, yes, but some of those are not overused.
You haven't been here long enough to get the worst one.
I should have said phrase. Bull, to your credit, I should have said phrase.
What's the worst one?
The worst one, and when I say it, everybody on this panel is going to be like, oh, yeah.
What is it?
Maybe next year.
Oh, yeah.
I'm done with that one. I'm like close to throwing hands when people tell me maybe next year.
I'm triggered by that.
Maybe next year. I'm triggered by it, too.
One of the first podcasts that I heard of in the city was Waiting for Next Year. That podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, no. What about this one? It's a moral victory.
Oh,
yeah, that's another one.
The moral victory.
The good old moral victory. Where does that show up in the standings? I don't see that anywhere in there.
It's a moral victory.
I see wins and I see losses. I don't see MVs.
It's a moral victory.
That's for losers.
Sign of a loser.
Yeah, that's what Warren Sapp boys used to say. You know what another word for potential is? Suck.
Right.
That trust the process is getting thrown out there a lot nowadays.
That's a good one,
yeah,
too.
What is the process, bro? What are you talking about? Like,
get better players than all the other teams in the league.
That's
process,
right?
Maybe next year.
Yeah.
Oh, that next year would get to. That hurts a little bit too, because it's like I just wasted a year. I got older. My cells are depleting as we speak. They don't regenerate at the same rate. That is why my hair's falling out. My short-term cells are dying every day, and we wait till tomorrow.
Have you guys ever had a season end, any season of your favorite team, where they didn't win a championship, and yet you were like, that was a great season. I enjoyed it.
I'll tell you one.
Was 2016 Indians?
No. Not 20. It was 2014 Cavs. Kyrie got hurt. Kevin Love got hurt.
Oh, yeah. You know what?
First year.
And we thought that was a wrap.
And him and Delly got us a win, and he spiked the ball. I said, Lord, I cannot believe we didn't get embarrassed. It was LeBron, Delly, Mozgov, and some other bums. Right. But I wasn't even mad because we was just like, yo, we had Kyrie and Kevin. Y'all was going to get smoked. But, 2014 the only day.
2016, because we came so close, no. I can look back now and say that was a fun ride.
Right.
What a hell of a season. But the fact that we were so close to the prize and missing, the same with the 97 Indians, where they lost in extra innings in Game 7.
I wonder, maybe because the Cubs won, I was able to think of it this way.
Yeah.
But for me, what year is this? The 2021 Bengals season, in which they had a heartbreaking loss to the Rams in the Super Bowl.
Right.
I look at it fondly. Ultimately, I want them to win a Super Bowl.
Does it come down to expectations? Because you didn't have expectations that year that they would go to the Super Bowl.
Nothing. Even when the playoffs started, I didn't think they were going to the Super Bowl.
So when you get into that icing on the cake, like house money level, it's easier to think, yeah, you know what? What a fun season.
But on that pass interference, you had to be sick.
Yes, I was.
Yeah, when it was that close.
I had so much fun. It was the first year my son really cared about it. Yeah. We had fun together. I will say, what year was it now? Was it 14? It's all jumbling together. The year that the Indians won all those games at the end of the season to get into the wild card.
Yeah, that was incredible.
Against the Rays.
Was that 15?
Yeah, I think it was.
I can't remember
14 or 15.
They played the Rays and got
Danny
smoked.
Salazar pitched.
One game.
Yep, one game.
Remember Danny Salazar pitched that game?
I do remember Danny Salazar.
But I was at this ballpark when Jason Giambi hit the home run.
Yeah.
They had that winning streak to get to the playoffs.
They went nuts.
It wasn't even that many people there, but I was jumping up as if I'd been rooting for the Indians my whole life. We were going crazy. Everybody's walking out of the stadium high-fiving after that game.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was a fun year. I really enjoyed it, even though They didn't win.
I got 2 notes in a super chat. I'm going to do a super chat first because the 2 notes are going to get us off tangent in a sec. And whenever we bring you super chats, it's brought to us by PCC Airfoils. Looking for a job with career advancement and great benefits? Well, PCC Airfoils is a leading manufacturer in Northeast Ohio. All locations of PCC Airfoils in Eastlake, Menor, Wickliffe, and Minerva are hiring for all positions starting at $18 and up, plus full benefit packages, paid time off, and a signing bonus. You can apply online at precast.com/careers to learn more. King David says, Brad, why is Mobley and Mitchell not being considered more for NBA awards? Mitchell, All-NBA, and Defensive Player of the Year for Mobley.
Because we're in Cleveland. That's why. Because if it was in New York,
Donovan Mitchell's not the MVP.
No,
Mitchell's going to make All-NBA team.
I think his point is not so much the NBA, the MVP. I mean, is this the effect he's had on the team has been a super high value.
Yeah,
it gets discounted here in Cleveland or any market, Milwaukee, smaller places like that. If this was going on in New York City, you'd hear about it all day long.
But Jalen Brunson's having
man, ain't nobody paying attention.
He's not being talked about for MVP.
But here,
Jalen Brunson's not on the same level as Donovan Mitchell.
Donovan Mitchell shouldn't win the MVP.
Jalen Brunson, I'm not arguing that he should.
Okay.
Jalen Brunson's production against Donovan Mitchell's production is no comparison, right? Right. But I'm saying the level he's delivering it at here,
right?
If it was in New York City, right? Your boy Stephen Smith was
no question.
No question. Oh man, this would be the last thing you'd be talking about. I mean, you'd be hearing about it every day.
Yeah.
The 3 MVP candidates right now, though, are on a tier of their own.
Yeah, they are. I have no problem that Mitchell's not being mentioned in that conversation.
But Mike, it is also the place that is being done in.
But Giannis in Milwaukee.
So New York is so.
Jokic is in Denver.
So New York is so thirsty, right?
Yeah.
If he laid this same track down in New York,
well, that's a fact.
It'd be no question.
But I mean, to Mike's point, the guys that are the front runners are playing in non-coastal cities that have no business garnering all that attention.
I don't think Donovan Mitchell, in my opinion, I think people make too big a deal of people not voting for people because they're from Cleveland. I don't buy that. In fact, this idea that people vote for New York people doesn't make any sense because I think there's more people that hate New York than hate Cleveland or Milwaukee.
I don't think they hate Cleveland. That's not it. They just discount it. I'm just telling you, they do.
And Milwaukee too, but Giannis is getting
But
his
he has
run.
proved his way because he's won a championship there. You have to acknowledge
And by the way, I mean,
LeBron
LeBron got plenty of attention when he was playing in Cleveland.
But he came here with a pedigree out of high school.
Sure.
And
we all knew he was coming.
You knew it was coming. Yeah. Right?
That's
and by the way, even when he left, they looked at it as a LeBron, not the Cavs. It was always LeBron and the Cavs.
You're right.
Currently on the NBA's MVP ladder, Mitchell is not in the top 15. So,
I think that's egregious.
That's egregious.
Well, but that's not the MVP vote. So
no, but it's where he's ranking right now, and he is.
So who's on the list, Mikey?
As of this moment, and they updated this 4 hours ago. Also, DJ Shark signed with the Panthers. He's off the board. And Nelson Aguilar signed with the Ravens. So, Joel Embiid is 1. Jokic 2, Giannis 3, Jason Tatum 4, Luka 5, Sabonis in Sacramento 6, Randall in New York 7, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander 8, James Harden 9, Lillard 10, and then they list 5 more in no order, just alphabetically.
Isn't this just one person's opinion?
Who is that?
Michael C. Wright, but he does a tally. There's a vote.
Julius Randle.
So then 5 more
Julius
not
Randle,
listed.
Get him out of here. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, get that out of here.
And SGA.
Hold on.
That's true. SGA's from a huge market.
Hold on. The next 5 in just alphabetical.
All right.
Yeah.
Jimmy Butler, Anthony Davis, De'Aaron Fox, Laurie
But
Markkinen.
I don't want to hear nothing else. We finished with that.
Are we really going to argue about who's 12th for the MVP?
I'm not arguing the position.
It's just
to even have street clothes Davis on the list
is egregious.
Is obscene.
By the way, it was 2013, not 2014.
Obscene.
I agree with you. I think he should be in the top.
Here's how
top 10.
Here's how to change.
Person.
If they make some noise, you know how they do. Them boys over there, how they do it. The big time, they say you got to make some noise first. If they go to the Eastern Conference Finals or they beat one of the bigger teams, they'll start next year on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
Yeah,
because they didn't put Mobley as Kevin Garnett. Because Mobley will be on one of these teams. He'll be third team all defense this year. He'll get that, and they'll bill him to be the team that they built right. So they'll do it, but they got to do something first.
We have one more super chat, Mike.
Well, I was going to mention the Aguilar and Chark signings. And I knew if I did Chark before I got to that, we would have got off tangent. So
yeah.
Chark is headed to Carolina on a one-year deal.
Care.
So
I think he would have been a nice piece here.
Nice piece.
He would have definitely rounded out that wide receiver class, no doubt. I'm curious to see if they think they can address that in the draft or not. Or will they go out and they'll make a move for maybe one of these other wide receivers that's still available?
They do.
Hunter
Listen,
Renfrow.
they might feel like they don't need to add another proven wide receiver.
Right.
They
have 3 NFL guys who at least on some.
They say,
maybe they bring in 3 or 4 fringe guys, free agent types. Let them fight it out, and may the best man win.
David Bell, we know David Bell's going to be here.
Right.
So that's at least 4 guys right there. And Jakeem Grant, who's a returner, but is technically. So there's really only spots for one more.
I'll give you that because David Bell's a high pick. He's got to see if he pans out or not. But so long as we have 3, I was getting greedy, right?
Yeah. I'm with you. I still would like another proven receiver.
I would like one.
But if push going to shove, give me Bobby Wagner.
They do have one more spot. I mean, I don't see how Anthony Schwartz makes the team. I don't see how that's possible.
My goodness, no.
Yeah.
No.
By the way, unrelated, I'm just looking at the NBA stats now.
What happened to your boy getting mad at you?
So many dudes
we forgot to tell that story.
are scoring 20 points a game this year. It is absurd.
Well, scoring's up.
I know, but Brad, how many players just off the top of your head are
points a game?
averaging 20 points a game?
In this league?
A lot.
Today, yeah.
A bunch.
Probably about 24?
I'd say
24?
more. I'd say
No.
Yeah,
say 50.
It's about,
I was gonna say 52.
I was going to say about 55 people.
20 points, without rounding up, just 20. There's 43 players averaging 20
that's
points.
ridiculous.
If we go,
Scoring's way up.
No, so the story is way up because they've hijacked the rules.
Yeah, they have.
This is ridiculous.
And defense is optional.
20 points
sometimes.
doesn't mean what it used to, right? Now it's
not.
23.
20 is the new 40. I mean, 40 is the new 20.
Where's the
40 is the new
cutoff?
20. That's what it is.
30 is the new
30.
20.
No, 35 is the new
Overtime
20.
next.
ask the show. We got some great questions in OT coming up.
All right, if you're not a member, become one because you're gonna love this overtime.
Yeah, these dudes.
These are some really good questions.